Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
There's Lon Strickler coming in early, as we love Lon around here. Solid beard and hair combination, ready to talk monsters all night long here on the mighty SOR. And normally, you know what, we have Dirty Filth, but he's working late in the daytime job, and he will be around a little bit later in the week. Before we get Lon going here, let's say hello to everyone listening in on our chat room tonight. Race fan in the gold medal position. We have Awesome Man B taking home the silver. Nicholas Shaughnessy from the After Hours bringing home the bronze medal tonight. Nightmare, how you doing? Roy Boy, Steam Train Mark, how you doing? Please let us know if we're live tomorrow. If you do not mind, that would be great since you live in the future. Kathy Evans, D. Cohen, Donna Spencer, Sugar Britches, Gene Crane, welcome to SOR chat. And who else do we have here? John Swan, Les Paul Holland. Good to see you. Desert Rat is here. Desert Rat will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Lisa C., nice to have you back. Smithy, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. And the super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, nice to have you here. Hi, Jules. Good to see you. As we continue on with roll call tonight, Brown Dwarf, thanks for coming on in. Alien Critter, good to see you. Shane Barber, welcome to SOR chat. How you doing, man? And Gansfeld, nice to see you. The Gansfeld Files will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, to the right of the studio. Millennium, Aussie, oi, oi to you, man. As we continue on with roll call, Brandon Thetford, welcome to SOR chat. Good to have you here. And who else do we have hanging out here? There's Pixie Lara. Nice to see you. Bernadette, welcome to SOR chat. And, by the way, yes, we are alive tomorrow, Lon. That's what I love about Australian listeners. They get to tell us if we're alive tomorrow. It's beautiful. We made it another day, Lon.
Yeah.
Another day. Robert Moore, good to see you. 405er, thanks for coming on in. Hey, Barry Brown, how you doing, man? Good to have you here. And let's see, who else do we have? Paramarv, nice to see you. Digger Dog, Rui in Portugal, good to see you. YJ Overlander, thanks for coming on in, buddy. How was your weekend? Bobbert, good to have Bobbert here. And let's see here. Look at Raz there. Dave's top matches his hair. Very color coordinated. Oh, thank you. Obi Flat, Cecil, nice to have you here. All right. Terry Hall, how you doing? How's that mustache and goatee combination? Aiden, nice to see you again. And there's Jessica McCreary and Travis W. Eva, nice to have you here. Pastor Keith, Reverend Keith, can I get an amen for you, brother? Can I get an amen? I love you, man. Look how happy I am to see you here, Reverend Keith. I love you, man. I hope you're doing well. And let's see here. Let's see. Damien, nice to have you back. And we are all caught up so far. Bombshell Bomber, nice to see you. I know there's going to be a big flood in about an hour here because Jimmy Church is talking with Grant Cameron about the Wilson documents. We'll have Grant Cameron on tomorrow night, so it should be a massive show here. And just like tonight will be W. David Page, nice to see you. But we're going to get things going here in about 30 seconds. Our store is open, so make sure you check out spacedoutradio.com and go check out our swag. We got some really cool stuff there. And, of course, Lon's website is phantomsandmonsters.com, which literally gets tens of thousands of hits each month. So, we're getting in for it really well here tonight. And thank you, everybody, for coming on in. We're going to have a great show here coming up momentarily. Oob to Joe's Main. You've got Lubla. And 5 seconds here. Do me a favor, everybody. Get your horns up. Let's rock. Of Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out the Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. A power show coming right ahead with Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com. And, of course, it is the month of the Mothman out in West Virginia. We'll get into all of that coming on up. Then in hour number 3, the Swamp Dweller will take us on another spooky journey right across, wherever we end up going. Yeah, wherever the Swamp Dweller takes us. Then, filling in for Tim Senor on the UFO report tonight, Nicole Sakic returns to Spaced Out Radio. I know many of you will be very excited about Nicole being back as she breaks down the latest news in the Oak Shannon world, and who will have the news. Our man, Lon Strickler, is back. He is a myth and a legend in his own right, as this guy literally has tracked monsters right around the world. Lon's website is phantomsandmonsters.com. That literally gets tens of thousands of hits from people just reading stories to those filling out their own reports of creatures that are said to be lurking among us. Whether it's Bigfoot, Dogman, werewolves, ghosts, UFOs, aliens, or every gnome in between, Lon has a team of experts who are out there trying to bring some sense into the unsensible. Lon is also an accomplished author. You can find all of his books at phantomsandmonsters.com or on Amazon. Highly suggest you add those to your library. Lon Strickler, it is always a pleasure to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
You're doing good. Thanks for having me, Dave.
What's new? It's been a quick month since the last time you were on. I looked at the calendar. I thought it was only like 2 weeks ago. But there you are. You're back.
It's been quick. I was kind of surprised, too. I got a lot going on. So, it's a lot here, a lot there, not only just with the website and the team and stuff, just a lot going on. But no, it's we've got a few reports we've had come in. I think I sent some to you, and it's been some interesting stuff pop up here and there.
Well, Lon, I got to fill you in on my last few weeks, my last few Saturdays. As you know, and you and I have talked about this before, I have a Sasquatch gifting site out in the forest that I set up earlier this year, and there was 3 giant X's in a row in the trees. Well, we go back there 4 weeks ago, and it was my buddy Mike, my little guy, and myself. And, dude, we are seeing fairies flying through the trees. Little dots of light flashing in the trees all around us. all white. The weird part was they were all white. There was no blue, pink, yellow, orange, green, nothing, just white. And we don't have lightning bugs here. And most of the bugs now, it's cold enough at night where we don't even see the bugs anymore. So fast forward a week, we start seeing UFOs there. We see a triangle form in the sky. We see another one that we thought was a satellite do a zigzag. Heard a few little tree branches breaking, but that could have been anything from moose to deer to bears to anything. Go back 2 weeks ago, set up a fire there with some friends. We're just chatting around. The only thing that was exciting that happened was we had 2 streams of Starlink fly over, including one that we caught. We counted 54 of them. That was kind of cool. Last week, like just a few days ago, we go back there, Lon, and the minute we turned onto that logging road, it was like absolute freakiness. I'm driving. My buddy Mark is beside me. My partner is behind me, and my little guy is beside her. And the minute I turned onto our special road, Lon, I was seeing pareidolia of alien faces everywhere. Okay, alien grays. I would look in a tree with my headlights, and I would see the shape with the eyes, and I'd pull up to it thinking, oh, crap, there is one. Pull up, and it's a tree. Pull up to the next one. And this happened over and over again for about 7-8 kilometers, so about 5 miles to get to our site. My buddy Mark started feeling pressure in his head, was not feeling good. My partner absolutely felt sick to her stomach. We get to our spot. We're there for 40 minutes. I never stopped my vehicle, did not let my little guy out of the truck, Lon. That's how bad the energy was. My buddy Mark, who, when we go into that area, we're always armed. My buddy Mark is our armed guard. And he literally got a telepathic message saying, if you bring this gun out, there's going to be hell to pay. Okay, pretty much, paraphrasing. And I'm telling you, there was something around us. We never saw it. But, man, could we cut the tension with a knife around there. I don't know what it was. I don't know what I do know what it felt like, and it was uncomfortable as anything. I've only ever felt that once, and that was probably in 2017, around this time of year, on a different mountain when I was cutting down logs for firewood. I'm telling you, have you ever experienced that?
I haven't actually experienced that in particular, but I've heard a lot of stories very similar to that. These locations, like your location where you do gifting, you see a lot of phenomena. There might have been an infiltration at that point, non-terrestrial infiltration. I mean, you were seeing UFOs previous to that. Maybe there was something dimensional coming in there. Maybe there's a portal there as well. I don't know. Maybe it could be a lot of anything. But as far as, you talked about Bigfoot and orbs. I mean, that's been pretty common more so in the last couple of years. We're hearing more and more about that from people. I think I sent you an article about a gentleman who had orbs, who has seen orbs with the Sasquatch. And I think that was in BC. This is pretty common, and it's not just out there. It's in most places. So, are we getting a signal? Or are we being shown something that we hadn't been shown before, or people just didn't report? I don't know. But no, you may have been experiencing some type of some brief infiltration. The energy can change pretty quick. If you're sensitive enough to pick up on it, yeah, but since all of you did, it must have been pretty strong.
Oh, it was terrifying. Like, Lon, none of us left within 20 feet of the truck. Okay, and we're in an area where there's been a lot of logging around it. So we have about where we pull over, we have about 65, 70 feet to our right before we hit trees. On our left, it's probably 120 feet. Ahead of us is a swamp with birch trees all around it. There's an opening right in between, and that opening, there is something about that opening drives me absolutely and my friends bonkers. Like there is just weird energy in that opening.
Yeah.
And we know in that area there's a lot of wolves, there's a lot of bears, there's a lot of big moose. They used to go through there and feed off the bark of the birch trees. Okay, it's an active area, but this, for all three of us to experience this, and then Lon, when we pulled out of there 40 minutes later, all three of us felt that for the first couple miles out, we were being followed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just can't race out of some of these logging roads. You got to go maybe 10, 20 miles an hour. You don't want to be popping tires at that time of night when weird stuff is happening. That's just out of a horror movie, but it was, gosh darn it, man. It was a strange night that I haven't had in a long time, man.
Yeah, there was probably an active portal there at that point. I'm not saying it's not there all the time. It very well could be, but at that point, it was pretty active. I have heard that before. Let me ask you: did you hear any buzzing sounds?
I did not. My buddy Timber Hunter, who's in the chat room, that's Little Marky Spender. He was actually with us that night, and I don't know. He was the one who got the telepathic message not to bring the gun out.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't hear anything. Like it was heavy. Don't travel too far away because things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I was seeing pareidolia in the trees. I had my flashlight going right through this set of trees, and behind the trees, a few feet in, it looked like there was a gray standing there. I knew it wasn't a gray because the birch trees are all white with black on them. Okay. And it just, to me, I was falling deeper and deeper into the pareidolia, which could be dangerous for all of us out there. You don't want to be doing that. But Mark says here, Lon, he goes, my left ear, which is pretty much deaf, had buzzing, which is strange because I could only hear certain tones in that ear. So what does that mean?
That's a portal. That's one of the first indications of a portal. If someone's sensitive enough to pick up the buzzing sound, I don't necessarily think it's an audio thing. I think it's something's projected. But I've heard that many times. And when I'm talking about portals, I'm not talking exclusively spirit portals or something like where other entities or cryptids and such can move in and out. It usually happens with all these forms of portals. But no, I have heard I have heard it before when I've done cases. That's usually when I can tell a portal is out of location. But yeah, the buzzing sound, it's almost like a swarm of bees. And that's probably what was going on. It was active. The fact that you saw pareidolia, that may have actually been some projected visions that were being sent to you, like a warning.
Yeah, Mark says, sorry, should have mentioned it about the buzzing in his ear, but he never thought about it with all the rest going on. I mean, let me tell you something about Mark, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There is nobody on this earth that I feel safer with than my friend Mark in the forest. He's been an outdoorsman for a number of years. He's not the best looking guy, Lon. In fact, he's unattractive as much as he is good in the forest, and I know right now he's sitting on his camouflage recliner in just his underwear eating a bowl of cheesies as we talk about this. That's just the kind of guy he is. But I've never, ever felt scared in the forest with him. Even the time in 2018 when we got chased out of the forest by two Sasquatch, I never feel afraid around Mark. I feel safe. I know my son is safe. I know we're coming home when Mark is with us. And my buddy Mike is like that as well. And Mark is the type of guy where he's been in the forest. He's quite, he's old. I think he's like 70 years old or something like that. And no, I'm teasing him right now because I know he's listening while at work. But Mark's a couple years older than me, and he's been in the bush all his life. Whether it's been logging, whether it's been hunting, a hunting guide, an animal tracker for wolves and coyotes and mountain lions that are encroaching on city areas, he's the guy you call. So this is a guy who knows the forest. He's been face to face with black bears and grizzly bears and 1,800-pound moose. Nothing breaks him. He's never too high or never too low. Whereas me, I'm a spaz cat, man. I'm an absolute spaz cat. I'm like Zach Bagans in the forest, like that's the kind of guy I am. But with Mark, it's important to feel safe in nature. And when Mark is uncomfortable, I take real interest in that because it doesn't happen often. And we have to go back. Lon.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 4 weeks in a row. Yeah. We have to go back.
Yeah, I would. I would definitely take a recording device as far as a voice recording and document what's going on, what you see and such. Even if you have a camera or camcorder or something, take something along. But what you experience is pretty indicative of what I've heard. I don't think the Sasquatch like that kind of activity around them, to be honest with you.
You're the second person to say that to me today.
Yeah, I don't think they do. Even though some people think that there may be a connection between Sasquatch and UFOs and aliens and such, that may very well be. But when it's on their territory, I don't think they like it. And maybe they were being checked up on. This is something that may have some ties to it. These winged humanoids that we've been getting in and around Chicago,
yeah,
they don't like the UFO activity around them either. And it's almost like they feel like they're being chased down from what we recollect from them. And I think that may be the same case with Sasquatch. I believe that a lot of these cryptids that we experience may also have some life on another dimension, have the ability to move in and out through portals or however they do it. Now, of course, in your area, I think for the most part they are indigenous, and you see family groups and such, and you see a lot of evidence of them being there, especially with a gifting site or something to that effect. So yeah, that's their property as far as they're concerned. And when these things come in, I don't think they like it.
No. And you know what? Robin McCrae, I don't know if you know her or not, but she is very intuitive, and she makes claims that she actually can telepathically communicate with Sasquatch. She broke down everything to me this morning that you just said.
Right.
Yeah, everything. It's like hitting replay.
Yeah, well, I'm intuitive, but I don't know how if I can communicate with those things. I don't normally communicate with cryptids or other beings. It's kind of incidental contact in my case. But yeah, I do hear, this is something that I have been told and things that I pick up on. And I think, I think there is an issue there. So, Maybe there was just bad energy right there because of that.
Well, it's funny because Robin had stated that she believes that it had something to do with the UFOs that we saw a couple weeks ago. And from what she's been hearing from other researchers, is that people who are having Sasquatch encounters recently in those areas are starting to see more and more UFO activity. And the fact that here I was literally seeing pareidolia of alien grays the entire drive up, and I wasn't quiet about it. Mark heard about it. My partner heard about it. And, I'm very open about it. I mean, so do you think that would have anything to do with it?
Oh, I think so. I mean, UFO activity, Bush would be going crazy because I'll tell you, ever since this war in Ukraine started, it's really increased. Now, I don't know if it has anything to do with it. I've had people tell me they think it does. Some of the reports I've been getting out of Ukraine and Romania in particular are there a lot of UFO activity, and we're getting more and more around the United States and North America. So, are they on high alert somehow? It seems that they tend to turn up more and more when there's tension, geopolitical tension, even war and such on our planet, and there may be something going on with that. So but I think what I told you is what's going on. That they got into an area that they weren't welcomed, and the energy was so high on both sides that you guys were feeling it.
Well, a couple more things because we only have about 2 minutes here. Then we'll turn the corner and get into Mothman because the anniversary was just last week. Mark here says we did see eyes shining back from the trees and down the right-hand side of the road. I never saw the ones on the right side of the road, but the ones that were in the trees, we did see. I mean, they were higher up. Mm-hmm. It wasn't at, one set that I saw was, you could say, okay, maybe that's a wolf or a coyote on the hill watching. There was a little dirt knoll in front of the trees. Could have been something like that. But the ones that were higher up, like Mark was adamant when we parked, he's like, let's not go near this area straight ahead of us, which was probably 150 feet. He's like, let's not go there. There's something in there. We go over there, we're asking for trouble. Mm-hmm. And then he follows up by saying the energy was not Sasquatch. This was very negative energy that made your stomach tight and uneasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have felt that before. I don't know if it's necessarily just because it's a non-terrestrial being or something invading or getting in the Sasquatch space, but it's negative. It could even be spirit energy. Who knows? You're talking about BC. I mean, there's just so much that goes on there. And some of the stories I have gotten out of the province over the years are very interesting. And it kind of makes you think twice. And I just think, I'm not saying you may have been fortunate to experience that, but in a way I think you are, because that's something that's not usually experienced by people.
I don't think, as we got about 15 seconds here before we go to break, Lon, I don't think I would be remiss with Mark listening and even saying that, a few days later, we're still feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We're still feeling a little bit tight in the stomach. And trust me, if you saw the size of Mark's stomach, you would say, yeah, there's nothing tight there. But nonetheless, we got to go back. We will do that next Saturday. When we come back from break, that's the word I was looking for. Lon Strickler will break down Fandoms and Monsters, going to Mothman in West Virginia, and Henry Cole next. Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. Mark says, I've never had a voice say, leave the gun in the truck. If I remember right, it said, don't even think about bringing the gun out. To me, that sounds like Dogman.
It might have been. It could have been a lot of different things. That's kind of the way. That's kind of the way they communicate. Normally, Sasquatch, Saba, or whatever you want to call them, don't necessarily communicate in terms like that. I don't even think other non-terrestrial entities do that as well. Dogman, that's a possibility. These cryptid canines they do some pretty strange things sometimes.
Yeah, it is very strange to me.
Yep.
Very, very strange to me. And I just got to go back. There is no choice.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely go back and document, too, because I think you're going to find something you didn't expect to be there. I'm just going to tell you that. Yeah, I think you will.
High or low? Like physical being or maybe a sign?
Evidence of some type. Something will show up. Something will be there that wasn't there before.
Okay. So let me ask you this. If we're parking straight, the front of the truck being 12 o'clock, where are you feeling it?
2, 3 o'clock to the right.
You fucker. I was hoping you would not say that. Because that 2 o'clock is right where that strange.
Yeah, it's probably a portal.
There he is. Damn it, Lon. You made me mad there.
That's what I do. I pick up on stuff like this. I don't know how, but I do.
It's funny because a couple of months ago, we actually walked back there.
Uh-huh.
It was like the feeling that something was going to jump out at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet all the footprints in the area, because very soft mud in there, not soft, but soft enough to cast a footprint.
Mm-hmm.
It was all deer, cat, and moose.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a bear track in there.
Really? See, that might be another indication because what are you talking about? Just black bear? Maybe grizzly?
Yeah. Tough to see a grizzly in that area.
Yeah.
There.
Bears seem to have a type of intuitiveness as well. They don't like getting near things that they don't know. They just like to stay away. People think they may be aggressive, but I don't. The ones that I have noticed, and from what people have told me, hunters and trackers and such, they just seem to have that little sixth sense more though than they would have instinctively. If there's an area that they're not sure about, they're going to stay the hell away from it.
Well, you know what? We'll go check it out.
Yeah.
We'll have to go a little bit earlier. Hi, George Hernandez, Travis DeLuca. Let's see here. Mark says, my thoughts exactly. It's in that area. Thurston Howell III, how are you? Cat Chaser, thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, guys, don't forget to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down and hit subscribe. It really helps with our algorithms and our numbers on YouTube. So we'd greatly appreciate it if you could run those numbers up one way or another. Thank you so much. Hello, awesome and amazing Kira. How are you? CN, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How you doing? Good to see you. And thank you, Cat Chaser, Eddie, and Smithy for the awesome super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support that you guys give us on a nightly basis. It really helps out what we do. Scowling Greg O'Brien. Looking for a nice scowl tonight? Visit Greg O'Brien's Twitter handle. Yes, that's what you need to do. Damn it, Lon. I didn't want to go into that area. I really didn't. Now I'm going to be squirreling all week, man.
Well, I would look in that direction and maybe see if you can pick up anything, but maybe,
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
we'll plan for that area. We got about 10 seconds here. We're going to get going.
Okay.
And all right, guys, sit back, relax. Here we go with the second half hour of the show right now. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com is back as we do this little ditty near the end of each month called Strange Days, where we get into the who, what, where, when, why, and how of everything to do with monsters. Lon's website is phantomsandmonsters.com, and you can find all of his books on his website, or go to amazon.com, type in Lon Strickler, and you'll see the big length of books that would be perfect for your library on these subjects. Lon, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Another year, another Mothman festival has come and gone, and I could say, Lon, out of all the conferences or whatever you want to call it, I want to go to this one.
Yeah.
It just seems like a good time. The city has really over the years and decades embraced the fun of it all, and it's a real 3-day festival celebrating this monster called the Mothman. I mean, should we be really capitalizing off of this creature that many people still blame for the collapse of the Silver Bridge?
I don't see any problem with it. I mean, just so it doesn't change the vernacular. I mean, and sure, people still believe that this was a harbinger of doom. The reason why people died, or foretold these people dying on that bridge, and I don't know. I haven't been to the festival since I think the second one I was there, and it's turned into quite a big thing. It's everybody in the county basically celebrates it, and I know a couple people who live in Point Pleasant. And that's big. That's the big day, and that's the big week of the year. So, let them have their fun. I mean, it's a little town. If they're going to make some money off of it, that's fine.
Well, let's talk about the Mothman here, because it all seemed to start in Point Pleasant way back when in the 1960s. We all know what happened there. A couple of young kids getting chased out of the forest, and I'll let you take that. Give us the rundown, a little bit of history for people who may not know of it.
Well, I guess the nexus of this thing was when there were some young adults who had gone into the area, a parking area, for hangout and other activities at the old West Virginia Ordnance Works, which people call the TNT plant. It's a little bit off the main drag. It's been there since I think just before World War II. They used to make munitions there, and for whatever reason, that day this thing showed up and basically threatened these people who were hanging out. And there were a couple more incidents at the location. And then this thing started to be seen in other areas around the town, even other areas in Mason County across the river into Ohio. And Of course, when in December of '67, when the Silver Bridge collapsed before Christmas, and 46 people lost their lives, that's kind of when the whole big, of course, before that, John Keel was down there and had been reporting on the sightings, but the bridge collapse kind of put the cherry on top. And I believe, you being in a small town, you have 46 of your friends and neighbors who have died in a river from a bridge collapse. That's a shock. And I think people were looking for excuses, looking for reasons as to why it actually happened. And of course, some people were saying, true or not, that they saw this winged being, this Mothman, they were calling it, over the bridge that evening or before it happened. So that's when the whole harbinger of doom, portent of disaster thing started coming up. And I honestly, I don't really believe that. I just think it was happenstance. They did find evidence that the bridge had some structural issues, but as far as warning folks about that, I don't know if this being had anything to do with that or not. Now, I have had stories and accounts from others where they have seen angels or winged beings before disasters. There was another incident in, and I don't have the exact location, but it was a mine in West Virginia, and that pretty far south down into the more deeper into Appalachia. And there was a train explosion, a boiler train on the train blew up, killed several people, and there were some sightings of this thing previous to that. And of course, with the bridge collapse on the Mississippi up in Minneapolis years ago, there were people that said they saw it. People said they saw these winged beings at Fukushima before the meltdown. And of course, the most famous out of all of them, other than the Point Pleasant Mothman, was the Blackbird of Chernobyl, where some of the town residents and some of the people working at the nuclear facility said they saw this large black flying being above the reactor that had the disaster, and that was documented, as opposed to a lot of these other ones. There were reports coming out of there, and I think the Soviet government actually did look into that at some point, though I've never seen a report. Now, I don't know. People talk about the actual nexus of the Mothman. I personally believe that the Mothman at Point Pleasant was a summoned being. And the reason I say that is from a little personal experience and from things I've heard from other investigators and people who have had encounters. At that TNT plant, there are these domes where they used to store the munitions, the dynamite and such. And there's been a lot of strong spirit activity in that area. And some of the EVPs and such, and some of the indications I have gotten from being down there, I've been down there several times, I tend to believe it's a very strong indigenous spirit from the tribes that lived in that location. And look, that area down there had been a lot of warring between tribes and the settlers for almost 2 centuries. And I think this strong indigenous spirit felt threatened by people coming on the property, namely these young teens and adults who were on the property. And I think it summoned this being. Where did it summon it from? Maybe it summoned it from the same dimension where these Chicago beings are coming from. I don't know. But I think it's a summoned being. And I still believe I still believe it's in the location.
There seems to be a big tie to this, whether it's the legend of Indrid Cold,
Mm-hmm.
extraterrestrials, other cryptid creatures that have been seen around with this. What is the tie-in? Is this all of us just trying to put things together to make sense, or to continue the folklore of the Mothman?
I think in some instances it does. I have a friend who's a very well read ufologist and has written several books. His name is Raymond Keller. He's a retired professor at University of West Virginia, and he believes the Indrid Cold incident with Derenberger and it does have a relation to the Mothman, even though it was many miles north of there. I'm not sure. But, during the period of time where these Mothman sightings were taking place, there was a lot of UFO activity. And there was a lot of paranormal spiritual activity as well. And of course, later after it occurred, there were people who were claiming that they were seeing these men in black there as well. I mean, Keel wrote about that. In recent years, from people, an individual I have on my team and other people in the area, there's been a big uptick of upright canine activity as well. So that whole Mason County area is pretty ripe. I mean, it's got a lot of weird stuff going on. And, the Mothman sightings do occasionally pop up yet in Mason County. Well, all up and down the Ohio River. I've had sightings as far south and west to Cincinnati, from Cincinnati up to Wheeling, West Virginia. I've had sightings and reports. So that whole Ohio River Valley is, it's pretty spooked. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
What is the legend of Indrid Cold? We haven't talked about this subject in a long time on this show, but apparently, if you mention his name or if you bring energy to him, he may appear.
Yeah, I mean, from the story that has been told by Woody Derenberger, who had the encounter, and his daughter, who had actually met Indrid Cold, and contends that he and his family used to show up at their home years later, until it went back to where it originally came from. Woody Derenberger is a salesman. He was near Parkersburg, West Virginia. And this saucer-like craft descended on the road in front of him. And this being came out of the craft and walked up to him. And the first thing he noticed was the grin, the real wide grin. People call him the grinning man. And they had a conversation, and apparently they hit it off. And you've heard different stories. I mean, I think the actual story itself has been kind of embellished at some points, but apparently this was a long time relationship between Derenberger, his family, and Indrid Cold's family. And in fact, there's another individual, another so-called alien being that became part of this group as well, according to Derenberger's daughter. So I don't know. I don't know how true that is. I mean, she wrote a book about it. So I don't know. But, there was an incident that I was involved with. Now, I was involved. I looked into one individual who I have worked with, who lives in Queens, New York. He had a friend who lived up in upstate New York, and she had an encounter with a Mothman up there, up in the Adirondacks. And when she saw this being and got on the phone with this individual to tell him about it, she received a phone call. And I'm call waiting. And she looked and she answered it. And the person on the other end of the line said, "Do not report what you saw," and hung up. And the caller ID came up, entered cold. So, of course, he was on the horn with me right away. I don't know what the hell happened. He went up there later and did the investigation. He said that the house itself had a lot of activity. But the fact that, and she never heard of entered cold before, and she spelled it out to him what it said. And, of course, he recognized the name and then called me. I called Ray Keller, asked him about it. Ray told me, and this point blank, but he told me, he said, "I think the government is involved with it somehow." He said the whole entered cold situation, I still think is some type of government involved incident. It may very well be. And of course, I asked him, I said, "Would you think entered cold's still around?" It could be. He said they may be using his name as a code or something, but he said the fact that something knew that this thing had shown up at her house, in front of her house, and she'd seen it and then contacted her. It's almost like a Men in Black scenario. So, yeah, I mean, maybe entered cold and the Men in Black are one and the same. Now, maybe they're the same type of beings. But that happened about 2 years ago, and I wrote about it.
Why do you think, or let me ask you this, let me change this. Do you think Indrid Cold is still alive?
Yeah. Now, where he is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where he is, but I think he's still alive.
Okay, so for people who may not be familiar with who or what Indrid Cold is, could you define, is he alien? Is he human? Is he a mixture of both?
See, that's the question. Nobody really knows. Darrenberger seemed to think he was an alien being. Like I said, that wide grin that he had was kind of inhuman. I mean, his daughter said that she didn't really think he used that wide grin a lot, or it showed up a lot. Maybe he had the ability to change himself the way he looked to the kids or to somebody else. I don't know. I personally think he was probably a mixture. I didn't really know what to make of Indrid Cold until this incident up in New York occurred. Now I'm starting to think that maybe Indrid Cold came from the same line as the Men in Black, which I think are truly alien. I don't think they're anything to do with the government. Maybe there's some type of hybrid, but I don't think the government has anything to do with the Men in Black. Now, I had a lot of people disagree with that. But I don't think they're a government agency or a government entity. I think they're kind of the cleanup crew for the extraterrestrials. When somebody sees an entity or somebody sees a UFO, and then a couple minutes later, these guys show up at your door without a report, that's pretty strange. So, yeah, I think they're the cleanup crew.
Okay, so the fact, though, that Indrid Cold seems to pop up everywhere. He popped up in the series of Hellier. He popped up in West Virginia for Mothman. He's popped up a lot in the writings of Alan Steinbeck in the the Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Greenfield, pardon me.
Yeah, Alan Greenfield.
I mean, where or how does he keep popping up?
I don't know. Look at the Men in Black, how they pop up. Maybe he has the same abilities. Maybe he's one the same. I think there may be something to that. I mean, that's something I may take time at some point to look into. But there's a lot of strange evidence pointing that way. to where people see his name or get phone calls and hear all kinds of strange voices and such, and tell them not to report this, and that, and people then, of course, the Men in Black, or what people say are the Men in Black, show up and warn them not, in pretty intense warning, that not to disclose what they saw or what they experienced. I think there's a very good likelihood that they very well may be the same thing.
Do you believe it's malevolent?
I think it could be. I don't think they really want to shake the trees too much. I think they try to keep it as quiet as possible. I think, from what I understand with the Derenberger's experience with him, that it was a very, very good relationship. There was no malevolency involved there. And now it got to a point where something was going to be disclosed or somebody felt threatened. I guess they very well could, but I haven't really seen any evidence of that.
What do we make of it? Do you think Indrid Cold or would be something or someone who is immortal?
Oh, I don't know. That's possible, I guess. I really don't know. I don't know. Tanya Derenberger has said that they seem to have a lot of mortal aspects to them. They do get sick. Some of them do die. Somebody mentioned in the chat that that Tanya said that Indrid had died, and that his children did tell her that they did. That's what she reports. So, is he dead? I don't know.
We got 2 minutes to go before we got to go to break. At the top of the hour, Lon Strickler's Strange Days happens on Spaced Out Radio near the end of each month. Lon, as we wrap up this portion of Mothman and Indrid Cold, do you see a point, or has Indrid Cold jumped into the conversation with the sightings of Mothman in the Chicago area?
No. We haven't had any indication of that name. Now, we have had some strange humanoid sightings that may or may not be related to these winged beings that are being seen. But there have been a few incidents that there very well could be. We've had some UFO activity. We've had at least one apparent humanoid being ascended into one of these things that was seen by a witness. We've had some gray activity, but there's been other type of innocuous humanoid activity, especially in the greenways and forest preserves in and around Chicago. This is just one of another facet of this whole investigation that we have to take in consideration, because every once in a while something will pop up where a witness will say, well, I saw a humanoid. I don't know what it was. Didn't have wings. Or do you think it's related? Well, maybe. But it has happened. So if it's related, I hope we can get some evidence of it. But at the point right now, we're just, we're still collecting evidence after all these years. I am not going to come right out and say what is going on or what I think is going on, because I really don't know. All I can say is what we're getting, what people are seeing, what little tidbits that we're receiving from other directions, and report that and let people think what they may.
Lon Strickler's Strange Days continues with hour 2. Right after this, we'll get into some monster talk, as we always do with Lon on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, Lon, we are clear. I'm going to send you back to the green room here for a couple of minutes. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back after this, guys. Let's say hello to Lon again. She's got about just a minute to go here. Let's say hello to everyone. Naughty Apocalypse 22, welcome to SOR Chat. And James Fadekey, how you doing, man? And Jessica S., nice to see you. Who else has dropped on in here? Logan L., nice to have you back. Evan Walters, nice to see you. Road Dog, welcome to SOR Chat. And Christopher Douglas, welcome to SOR Chat. And, of course, if you guys have any questions for Lon, this is the hour to do it. Type them in capital letters, and I will ask Lon the questions for you. And we got a lot of good stuff coming up and up here. Lars Janssen, number 16 in your program, number 1 in your hearts. How you doing, buddy? Vaughn Patrick, nice to see you. Jamie Johnson, good to have you back. Linda Jacques, here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. How y'all doing out there? My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hebephrania. Hebephrania is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Hour number 2 with our good friend Lon Strickler, who comes in near the end of each month with Strange Days. Lon is a Fortean researcher. He's been doing this for well over the last 20, 30 years. He's got a collection of books that you can get on Amazon or his website, phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon, welcome back.
Always a pleasure, David.
Always a pleasure to have you here as well. Now, we're getting into the Halloween season here pretty quickly here, Lon. Yeah. And, more and more people are going to start reporting ghosts and any type of humanoid type beings and spirits. How do you prepare for this time for the encounters that people are going to be crushing you with?
It's interesting. I'm not a Halloween guy, first of all. I was born on the 20th of October, so I'm a Scorpio. I was born around Halloween. I should be a Halloween groupie, but I'm not. And it's not really been something I've been much into. That being said, I am very aware of people experiencing things in that time. And I have to be very vigilant about things I get, because people tend to get into the spirit of the season and kind of exaggerate sometimes. But every once in a while, we'll get a real good one come in.
What are some of your more memorable ghost stories that you have been told over the years?
Oh, God. I don't know. I guess the best ones I can recall are the ones I've investigated, where people have had, and it's not necessarily ghost. I don't really investigate ghost or apparitions and such. I investigate and work on those situations where somebody has had issues as a result of it. But that being said, again, when the spirits are on this plane and are earthbound, they try to get people's attention. And when they do that, they cause some issues. They scare people. They show up to a degree. Sometimes they have enough energy to show themselves to a degree. And that's when people call us. Now, I tend to get the more malevolent cases, or those cases that are causing other issues, even attachments, obsessions, not really possession, because when it gets to possession level, I turn that over to somebody else, because I don't really delve into all that. If people want to use the Catholic rites or whatever, or their deliverance of choice, then that I refer them to that. I don't necessarily do that. I can help move energies out of the earth plane into another level. I can help facilitate that. But no, as far as ghost stories, I've had my own ghost experiences, very few, but I've had them. And, I have been made aware of some specters that have just scared the living crap out of people. But it's usually a type of repeat vapor, repeat specter, residual being. Very few of these are intelligent, or to have an energy that makes them do things on their own. When you get on that level, then you're getting on close to attachments and real activity. Even a poltergeist may even exhibit that, even though that's not really a spirit. Yeah, I can't really pinpoint one, but I have heard so many of them. It's just, it kind of runs together. If I had to go to the website and pick a few out, I could do that. But no, the cases that are the situations that are fresh in my mind are those that I have actually worked on.
Do you notice a difference at this time of year? Because so many people out there, Lon, and I'm saying this as I don't buy it, okay? But so many people this year, with the popularity of Halloween coming up here within a month, claim that the veil gets thinner and more spirits are coming around, and places that weren't haunted are now haunted. I mean, I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't buy that either. This time of year in particular, though, year round, with people who delve into paranormal investigations, they get into situations where they really shouldn't be. Going out into a cemetery and summoning spirits, it's just not a smart thing to do. You see, now my black cat comes up. And those are the people that we end up having to work with, who get attachments and have and bring things back to their location, their homes. And I think it happens to a lot of people. People get into the spirit of Halloween, think they can go out and with a Ouija board, go out and sit in the graveyard somewhere and start summoning things. And yeah, that's where problems start. And they make it a good scare. But many times that scare isn't really worth it, because it's something that's going to last for a long time.
Do you believe in the hitchhiker effect, that people could go to locations and bring something home with them?
Yeah, I think it happens. If spirit has got enough energy, I think it happens. It's usually an entity or an energy that was part of a violent demise, either a car wreck or someone who was killed or raped to death or something to that effect. Yeah, I think is it PTSD of the spirits? I guess it could be that, but it does seem to leave an imprint at a location where it occurred at. You said hitchhikers. You hear a lot of these stories where people are driving down the road. They pick somebody up. Looks a little strange, but you pick them up anyway. And they're sitting in the back seat. They're talking to them. And then suddenly this entity disappears. Happens all the time. I'll tell you one thing. It happens in Maine a lot. I don't know what it is about Maine, but it happens in Maine a lot. I don't know what it is up in Maine. But maybe it's the Stephen King effect. I don't know. But I think that people can pick up attachments, hitchhikers, pick up things that stick to them if they're willing and they invite them. Yeah, and it usually causes a problem.
You mentioned something there, and I've seen it already mentioned in the chat room tonight about PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
When we think of PTSD, we think of, soldiers, we think of firefighters, we think of, police officers, paramedics, anybody who who sees trauma on a daily basis. Yet we don't really take into account the idea, Lon, that people who have these amazing encounters with spirits, with cryptids, with UFOs and aliens, that there is some sort of PTSD that could go along with that. Do you think in the paranormal world, using the paranormal term as an umbrella, that we are underplaying the experience and the trauma that is actually caused by it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a PTSD victim from an attack I had back in '96. They put me in the hospital. I've had panic attacks and anxiety because of it. I'm actually just starting therapy because of it. And I'm not afraid to come out and say that. I have, but as far as people experiencing PTSD in the spirit world, absolutely. And I have seen it. I have seen it literally change people's lives. And that where it got to such a point where it brought on disease and affected the way they lived and affected the way they died. Because I know people who have died because of suffering PTSD as a result of a violent haunting. It happens.
How do we deal with that?
Well, I dealt with it for a long time personally. I have referred people in the past to get therapy. I am just starting therapy. We're going to see. I guess I can report to you later on and tell you if it worked. But I'm trying to alleviate that in my own life. But I know people suffer from it, and I know people who have had therapy and have had changed. I've also dealt with people who have had trauma because of an attachment, who I have helped alleviate the attachment and counseled them, because when I do these type of things, I counsel for maybe years. And I've seen many of these people get their life back in order.
What would cause, say, a paranormal event to bring PTSD to a person? Would it be attacks?
Physical attacks. I had a case up in Prince Edward Island where a woman was mistreated by her father, sexually assaulted. If that wasn't bad enough, when he passed away, he did it in spirit as well. and we were called in to alleviate that. And as far as I know, she's doing pretty well. In fact, I know she's gotten married and had kids. So a lot of it's physical. It can be emotional as well. It can be taxing on people. They can be fearful. They can be scared of their own skin, as the saying goes. But it's horrible. It really is horrible. And like I said, I've seen it firsthand. And I've been doing this now. Well, I've been involved with the paranormal for almost 45 years. But as far as working with people in the past 25, 30 years, and that includes alien abductions and alien encounters and such, yeah. PTSD is absolutely a real thing.
Is there a difference between, say, somebody who has PTSD over a paranormal encounter compared to, say, someone who is being taken by aliens or comes face to face with a dogman or Sasquatch?
From what I have seen, the effects are very similar. Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, PTSD, it can come in various degrees. It can lead to various maladies. But, I can have 5 or 6 people stand in front of you who've suffered from it from different situations. And a lot of times they'll just tell them the same results. It usually is very similar.
How do you deal with PTSD when it comes to these subjects? I can understand how a counselor can, take an emergency worker or a soldier, who's been in the battlefield and has been really, traumatized by what they have seen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get that, but I mean, how do you deal with somebody who is traumatized because once every couple weeks they are being taken by aliens? I mean, for a lot of health professionals, they're going to say this person needs psychiatric help, not the help of someone who believes in aliens.
If it's bad enough, I will suggest that they do talk to someone, though they're normally not going to do that because they're fearful that someone will the professional will think they're crazy for whatever reason, that they're delusional, schizophrenic. And I've had people who I've worked with who have gone to professionals and have been told that. And that's why I don't normally recommend it. But if it's that bad, yeah, they should do it. I think they should. And, in my case with the attack I had and the subsequent problems I suffered, I was also doing cases with people and I was hearing all this stuff. It's accumulative. I've been psychically attacked physically in the past as well. I tell my therapist all this stuff and it's like, they're kind of astounded by what goes on. And, but the stress level when you're doing it does manifest and it does increase. I have kind of learned to alleviate a lot of stress in a lot of different ways. But, I do take what I do seriously. I do like helping people. I do have empathy for people. But I try not to let it affect me for the most part. But in more recent times, it has caused a little issue. So I figured it was time to get it taken care of.
Right. In your situation, as you've gone through this personally, I don't know. Do you feel comfortable in sharing what happened to you?
Sure. I was, back in 96. Yeah, I was at work. I was a supervisor I had an individual who was upset with me. I was involved I was a union shop steward at the time, but I was actually becoming I was training to become a district representative for the international. But anyway, I was at work, and this individual who was working under me got upset with something I asked them to do, and they blindsided me. And they literally took some type of object and cracked me in the back of the head. And when I woke up, I was in the hospital. And I was in the hospital for a couple of days. And I didn't really think much about it. I mean, I had a severe concussion as well. I didn't really think much about it until about 2 years later, when I started experiencing panic attacks while driving. You know, I would be out on the road, and I used to do a lot of traveling. You know, I would drive to Cleveland, back to Baltimore, from Baltimore up to Connecticut, back and forth, you know, servicing local unions and doing other work for the union. And because this was just after I had that attack, I went ahead and went on disability because of a back injury I had. I was already in the process of going through disability. But I was, you know, so I started suffering the panic attacks, and I've lived with these panic attacks now for almost 24 years. It has limited to me from driving to a lot of places. It's one of the major reasons why I don't show up for conferences and such, because I am just mentally unable to do that. I mean, as far as speaking and things, that's no problem. It's a matter of just getting out there and going to the location. And that's something that I'm trying now to change.
Well, good for you, and keep up the strength in figuring that out, because I think you would be very, very necessary on the conference circuit, my friend. Very necessary.
Well, I appreciate that.
We have 90 seconds to go here before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We're talking PTSD within the paranormal community. You mentioned you don't really see a difference between someone who has PTSD from a haunting experience compared to a UFO or a alien or cryptid experience. I'm actually surprised that it's not different, considering the length of trauma, especially those who are being abducted.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if it's the reason why they're abducted, that they're picked out for some reason. You know, a lot of times it's generational. But I think people who are picked to be abducted are made of a bit more, I don't know, chutzpahs compared to a lot of other people. I think, though there are times when it's really traumatic and it causes issues. But I think a lot of people who have been abducted realize it and they just don't let it bother them. I've been abducted. It never really fazed me so far. Now, it was just the one incident that I can remember, but you know, it was nothing traumatic. It was just I was picked up by three tall grays who I've had experience and I've had encounters with before, who took me to a location where I don't know where it was. They showed me a few things, communicated with me, and then brought me back.
Well, on that note, we'll talk about a little bit of aliens, a little bit of monsters, and a little bit of Lon Strickler when we return to the second half of Spaced Out Radio. We have Lon until the top of the hour. Then our man Swamp Weller comes in for another spooky story. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. Rock and roll, my friend. Rock and roll. It's good times. Good times.
You know me, I'm not really afraid to talk about anything.
I know. I know, but I still have to make sure.
Yeah, I understand.
Whatever happened to that dude who cracked you?
He went to jail. Yeah, he went to prison. I filed a complaint against him, and he was found guilty and went to prison.
Oh, good. Good.
He had issues before. That was back when they had the 3 strikes and you're screwed thing, and that was his third strike. So he's been in there. From what I understand, he's still in, but I think there are other things involved too with him. So, I used to work for a company that used to hire a lot of convicts. They got they got some type of deal with the state where they would be compensated, and they went into a program where people would get out of prison, and part of their rehabilitation had to get work. And we ended up working with them. I worked for a paper recycling plant. It was a challenge. It really was, because there was a lot of drugs, a lot of assaults, a lot of people bringing weapons to work, and I put up with that for over 20 years. And when I was able to get out, by whatever means I did.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's just eerie.
Yeah, it was a bad situation, but I consider myself lucky. This guy could have been on a tangent at some point, pulled a gun out and popped in the back of the head. I would have never known, or nobody would have ever known.
Oh, man. Oh, here. I'm just getting our news ready. All right. There we go. All right. Got my news ready. Let's go here. Who else has showed up here? Michael Gutierrez, LGG. Good to see you guys. Got a few questions to start off the next half hour.
Okay.
All right. I want to say thank you to Cat Chaser, Eddie, and Smithy for the awesome super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Thank you to everybody who's hit thumbs up, thumbs down, if you haven't already, and to everybody who's hit that new subscriber button. Very much appreciate it, because we are here 7 days a week for your listening ears. And we're going to get going here. Don't forget, you can get any SOR swag by going to our website, spacedoutradio.com. So check it on out. We got great swag. Fantastic. Go check it on out if you haven't already. And we got Lon till the top of the hour. Here we go. Let's do it. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. So glad you are with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Lon Strickler. Phantomsandmonsters.com is his website. You can find all of his personal writings and books on Amazon or on his website. And Lon comes in here near the end of each month for Strange Days, and we're going to get to some audience questions right off the bat here, Lon. Let's go to Raz here, who says, the average distance between both eyes for each species of Sasquatch, does it have any relevance to the creatures?
You know, I've never heard that brought up before. I don't know. I think for the most part, when people look at pictures of Bigfoot, or those that can be deemed as actual real photographs or really good sketches, there does seem to be quite a variety of distance between the eyes. I don't know why, but it does. I guess it's just like any human species or human race. There are changes. So are there races of Bigfoot? Yeah, it could be, but as far as any differences, as far as aspects of what they do or how they live, I don't know.
All right, let's get to another question here. And this one comes from Adam. Can UFOs cloak as modern airplanes?
I guess they could. I mean, actually disguising themselves as modern airplanes. Yeah, I guess it's very possible. You know, that I can't think of offhand where there's an incident where people had thought that had occurred, but I guess it's possible.
Let's move on. Raz again. Is it possible to mentally block someone's abduction 100% of the time?
Oh, I think people, the brain can suppress a lot of what happens to them. I run into a lot of people who have had encounters or abductions who don't remember until 20, 30 years or more. You know, the brain's a wonderful thing. The human brain or any species brain can do a lot of things, but humans, I mean, you know, I think we do have the ability to suppress things that we don't want to remember. Now, as far as all the time, I don't know. I'm quite sure there are people out there who have been abducted who have no idea they have been.
All right. Well, let's go to another question. YJ would like to know, Lon, what's the most common reported experience?
And of course, hauntings. We got a lot of hauntings. People who believe they are being haunted. One thing we have been getting a lot more as time is going on are glitches. People call glitches in the Matrix. Things that happen that shouldn't happen, things that are seen that shouldn't be seen, time slippage, things like that. That happens a fair amount of time. As far as cryptids go, of course, Bigfoot is probably the most common. The crawler humanoids they're getting a lot of those as well. It's kind of hard to determine what I got more of or get more of. I get a lot of different stuff, but since I'm mainly known more for cryptids, I tend to get more cryptid sightings.
Do you look at the fact that, you are more cryptid, you get more cryptid sightings, but do you get the idea that more and more the energy of each phenomena is coming together?
Oh, I think there's a very fine line between all aspects of the paranormal and the supernatural. You were talking about people having a Bigfoot encounter and you having Bigfoot encounters and orbs, UFOs. I think there's a very good possibility there are connections. We see it more and more. So, are the connections a mutual connection? Probably not. Things tend to gravitate to each other. But we do see a lot of phenomena. Say you get into a case and somebody reports a Bigfoot sighting or a dogman sighting or encounter. But then there's many times there's an underlying part of that the witness didn't believe was really important, but we tend to have ability to tease that out of them, like a haunting or something else that had happened. I think that's what I tell people who ask me about investigating or researching. Look, when you get a case, dig into it, be open-minded about it. It's like an onion. There are different layers. And if you listen to the individual and it seems like there is an underlying issue, ask them about it. You may be surprised.
Always good advice from Lon Strickler. Let's go to another question here from our audience here. James is wondering, Lon, have you had any reports of horned owls with silver belly feathers and a black dot pattern on the belly been taken at all? I know you get a lot of flying humanoid creatures.
We do get some owl reports. I don't know if people remember, I had some issues with owls. The year my wife passed, I was having encounters with owls, a lot of different owls, not necessarily horned owls. It was a lot of different owls. I've talked to people who have had encounters with owls. Mike Cleland has written and discussed his encounters with owls. He believes that they're associated with alien beings or non-terrestrial beings. I believe he's right about that. I think it had a lot to do with what I experienced during that year. But as far as specifically what a silver belly and black dot pattern, I don't know. I really can't say that anybody has, or I remember anybody saying that.
Okay, let's continue on here. Blue Cruz is wondering, does the eye color of a Sasquatch, dogman, etc. denote an emotional state of mind?
It may. I've had, most Bigfoot encounters, when they talk about eye color, it's usually dark, but there have been red. Maybe it's something to do with fear or anger. I have occasionally heard of yellow-like eyes, like most times you see with a cryptid canine, the golden yellow eyes. You look at the Mothman or the winged humanoids that we've been involved with. Most of the eye color that's denoted is red. But I have had green, I have had blue, and I've had just black eyes. Is it anything to do with emotion, how they're feeling, or even species? I don't know. I guess it could very well be, though.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. We got a couple more for you here, Lon. Vaughn is asking, Lon, do any humans choose out of their free will to go with their abductors, only never to be seen again? Good
Well, that's
question.
kind of hard to say because if they're never seen again, I don't know if we know. I know of people who haven't been abducted who never were seen again, or supposedly never seen again. I have, and this is something that I will never understand. I have talked to people who have told me that they wish they could experience an alien abduction, that they thought it would be interesting. Well, that's the way they think, fine. I guess they would go free will. If they don't come back, well, that's the way it is. But I guess it has happened. Another interesting thing with some of the encounters that people describe, and more recent in the past 20 years or so, when someone has been abducted or experiencer and they're in a location where these alien beings are congregated or where they show up at a location, there seem to be several different types. Greys, reptilians, humans, maybe hybrid types, sometimes insectoids. But more and more we get descriptions of actual humans being involved with the abduction scenario. Are they recruited? Do they volunteer? Do they become part of the program? I guess it's very possible.
I think it's an interesting question because the people that you have reported on,
Mm-hmm.
were they prior abductees before disappearing for good?
I would say close to 100% of those people that I know who were abducted and didn't return had never reported a prior abduction or didn't know about it, but never reported it. That I can say.
I always worry about that because, I mean, think about it. Like if you're having a pretty crappy life on this side, and some aliens come up to you and say, "Hey, would you like a fresh start? Come with us."
Probably
Be
beats
pretty
suicide.
You know,
Yeah.
beats a lot of things, and I always wonder, how many of these people have gone voluntarily? How many of these people have, been taken against their will?
Yeah. I believe it's very possible. Like I said before, I know people who would willingly go. And with their mindset, I think, and in some cases, the way they live, I think that they may see an advantage to sticking around with them. So I guess it's very possible.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I could make that decision.
No, I don't. I know I couldn't.
I really don't. Like, on one hand, it'd be like, okay, I got to try this out. Let's go for a ride. But I need some assurances here. I need to fly the ship. There's got to be a Taco Bell on board. Okay. And a Tim Hortons. Okay. Shameless plugs for both. And, there's got to be, we can't be running out of hot water in the shower. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't have that. Like, I have a list of demands here. Yeah, that if I'm going to go for good, well, we need to make sure that we get something on paper here.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, I think Okay, it would suck not seeing my family again. I mean, do you get to see them like on television cameras? Or like, if you can't come back, where do you go? And that one I think would hit me. But I'm sure there's people out there that have made that decision, Lon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they have.
All right, let's continue on with some questions here. Tony over in the UK is asking, have orbs or spheres been seen in connection with spirits or entities?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think spirit energy can manifest into orbs at some point, at sometimes. I have talked to people who have been involved with hauntings, who have been haunted or had activity at home, who have said they see a lot of orbs of varying sizes and colors and degrees and characteristics. So yeah, I think it does. When we're talking about orb activity around cryptids, Bigfoot, I think the spirits, the energies of the woods may be involved with that. They may have a communion with these beings. They may be protectors.
Well, we'll see. We will see. All right, let's continue on here, Lon. Raz is asking, I'm very confident the shape-shifting non-humans are living with us. What's your opinion, Lon?
Yeah, I think there are. I don't know if they're necessarily shape-shifting, and but I don't think every supposed human being on our planet is fully human. They may look human. Yeah, maybe they can shapeshift. I don't know. Maybe that's the way they look. Maybe humans are an evolutionary product of aliens, and vice versa. Who knows?
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I think they are among us. I do.
Oh, I think they are.
Another question here for you. Andrew and Tia are asking, do you think the disappearances in the national forests are UFO related or cryptids?
I think they could be to a degree, but I think it has to do more so with portals. And I have seen some evidence of portals that researchers have taken in the past. And when I say portals, not necessarily portals that go to other dimensions, possibly portals that go to an alternate reality. Say somebody steps into something, they're in another reality that looks very similar to where they came from, but there's some differences. And then they're able to come back, and then they're somewhere else where they didn't go into it, and it kind of moves them off to another location. I think that's very possible.
Really?
So yeah. I think like the missing 411 phenomenon.
Right.
I think it's more portals, more of people stepping into portals and going to other locations, and sometimes coming back, being deposited at another location. Now, I'm not saying cryptids aren't involved with this. I think they very well are. There have been many instances where children have been either saved or picked up by a Sasquatch and taken care of for a couple of days or even hours, and then they let the child go, and the child has a story of a big hairy bear or something that took care of them, or it could be alien abduction. Who knows? The fact that many of these stories with the missing 911, missing 411 and related types of disappearances are very sudden disappearances. I think it has more to do with portals.
See, I'm not sure about that. And I'm not discounting the portal aspect, because I do believe that is happening. But I think there are rogue creatures out there that are taking them. I don't think it's as much UFO. I mean, let's face it too, and we can't be remiss in saying that this is all monsters or aliens that are taking them. I mean, there's a lot of sickos who have gone off the grid that cannot handle humanity, who have kidnapped people, whether it's children, whether it's adults or women, or especially women. There are a lot of perverts out there. We gotta be aware of that. But I mean, I'm just wondering, how many of these rogue creatures, or maybe, you see a little child playing hide and go seek, and the kid would be the equivalent of a teddy bear to a Sasquatch, or something, or a dog man, or something along those lines. I mean,
I've heard stories. I've written about them. And, I've gotten reports about those. I had a report not long ago. I think I even sent to you about an individual who in BC who was actually swore that they were, was it BC? No, it was Montana, where they were actually, as a child, they were abducted by a female Sasquatch. And they were kept for several hours until, from what he remembers, this female was talked into letting him go. He didn't know the reason why. Maybe she had compassion for it, or maybe had lost a child or juvenile previous to that. Maybe the mother instinct came into effect. But yeah, that was something I reported very recently, and I do get those occasionally.
Oh man, that, I don't know. I think it's something we need to pay more attention to moving forward. I think David Paulides and many others are on the right path in really soaking in a lot of these. I would love to see them put more maps of alien abductions or Sasquatch close encounters over top of these missing 411 maps that they have. We know the tunnel system, for some weird reason, seems to line up with it. Have you seen any other line up?
No, I haven't seen any of those maps. I know there's some out there, but as many missing person cases that are reported yearly, man, that would be a crowded map. There are a lot of cases, not necessarily in state and national parks. I have seen figures in the past of how many people go missing every year, and they never turn up, or bodies never turn up. Yeah, it is scary. I mean, you don't really know what happened, and that's why when I get cases where people have disappeared, and for the most part, are returned somehow, or they show back up. But there have been several out there where the person just never returned.
Lon, what you got coming up on phantomsandmonsters.com?
Well, I post every day on the blog. We do have some interesting shows coming up on Phantoms and Monsters Radio Wednesday night. I'm going to do another personal reports, narrated some of the incidents who have been reported to me. And then Friday night, we've got a pretty interesting show where it's a case that we have been involved with for the past 8 or 9 months, from a couple in Ohio who have had cryptid canines on their property for the past dozen years. And they're going to be on live with me and discussing it.
Lon Strickler's Strange Days coming up next, hour 3. We're going to kick it off with the Swamp next. Great show, my friend. Great show.
Good.
We made it through another one. We'll be in touch for next month.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, if you can't make it, I'll get see if Eric Mintel will come back on.
Yeah, I'm sure Eric would come on.
Oh, yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
All right, brother. You take care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, I'm just going to step away here and get a hold of Nicole, and we'll be right back, everyone. All right, moving up here. Here we go. I know. I'm Dirty Filth was taking a couple of nights off. He's got to work late at the store. So I apologize for that. We need a filth cam. Thank you, Steve, Kira, Cat Chaser, Eddie, and Smithy for the super chats. We're going to get going here in about 15 seconds. And we're going to figure it out. We'll figure out the breaks.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us on in, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hebephrania. Hebephrania is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again where we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey into the swamp.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. In the early summer of 2020, my girlfriend Kayla and I decided to go camping. We had only been going out for a few months at this point, and before I had met her, I was very enthusiastic about trying to complete a section of the Appalachian Trail hike. I never got much farther than acquiring a full backpack of gear and all the essentials, like a tent, cookware, etc. But I had everything we could need for camping for a day or two. So we got some steaks and some beers and walked out into the woods. I had chosen a place for us to hike. It wasn't too far from my parents' house where I had grown up, so we parked my car at their house and my dad drove us to the end of the dirt road about 10 miles away from home. So we wouldn't have to leave a car there overnight so that someone would know exactly where to find us if they needed to start a search in any case of emergency. I told my dad that I would get in touch with him around noon the next day to let him know if we wanted to stay another day. We said our goodbyes and began the trek. I chose this trail because it only went down about 3/4 of a mile and reached a beautiful stream with a dilapidated sawmill that made for a significant trail marker. Unfortunately, I had lost my phone somewhere along that trail between the old road and the sawmill, but I didn't realize it until we had set up the campsite already. When we reached the broken down sawmill, we straddled the stream to the left and kept it along, so we didn't get lost. This wasn't a popular camping site by any means. I wasn't honestly sure if I was even allowed to be there, but I was familiar with the area growing up there. My friends and I would swim that stream growing up all the time. We eventually reached a clearing right next to the stream and set up our tent on the sloping ground. Without realizing it, we got our fire going with a lighter, cracked some beers, and waited until we were hungry to begin cooking. Unfortunately, we hadn't prepared much for wasting time out there, so we eventually started cooking out of boredom. Oh, and we went back to search for my lost phone and found it. Spirits were still a little low from the combination of lethargy, sweating, bugs, and the search for the phone. And cooking didn't go well either, honestly. We ran out of beer very quickly, having not brought enough, but having our wits about us at night may have paid off. We were both freezing at night and had trouble sleeping in our slant. Our heads were ever so slightly lower than our feet, and looking back, I'm not sure why we didn't just spin around. We heard the usual sounds everyone would listen to when camping in the woods at night. It's almost like you have superhuman hearing when sleeping in the woods alone, or maybe just without a gun. I lay awake most of the night, half listening to sounds and half imagining them, I'd assume. Then, I was woken up by Kayla climbing over the top of me to get to the tent door. She had to use the bathroom. My phone said it was about 5 a.m., so Kayla left the tent and did her business, and I tossed a little before getting out of the sleeping bag to check the fire. Kayla and I met at the fire, which was almost just embers at this point, and I started stoking it with the firewood I had gathered the previous night. We decided to sit on a log that was our makeshift bench and huddle with a blanket for a while. As we silently watched the fire, I heard the first snap. A quiet but distinct snap of a twig off to our right, about 40 feet away behind some brush. My head shot over and stared in the direction for a good minute, but I was also convinced from hearing things all night that a twig snapping might not be something to worry about. We sat at the fire some more, but it was still virtually pitch black besides the 15-foot fiery luminescence from our camp. Some time had passed and I heard another branch snap, but this time it was off more to the front of us. This time I stood up and looked out because if it's in front of us, that means it's moving. Across the campfire was a very steep hill that spanned a reasonable distance, with a stream to our back. We were in the middle of a valley, and I scanned the side of the hill trying to see anything. I heard one more snap, and this time I told Kayla to get into the tent, close it, and grab my hunting knife. I think her getting up quickly might have spooked what was stalking us. Suddenly I could see, slowly creeping in the horizontal line about 40 to 50 yards up the hill, was some very bright and beady eyes with a long bushy tail. I immediately knew that this was a mountain lion. I wish I could have just run into another black bear. It would have been so much easier. I was terrified, but even more so, I was aggressively ready to defend this woman I dragged into the woods to have a mediocre time with. I yelled to Kayla, "Holy crap, it's a mountain lion!" I threw my arms up and began grunting as loud as possible. I picked up a hatchet I had brought to chop wood and began slamming it into our log, trying to look as terrifying and as large as possible. I may have even grabbed firewood still lit for protection in any case that it got closer. Ultimately, I was fortunate enough to watch the mountain lion retreat up the hill, probably pissed off that its cover was blown. Nevertheless, I stood there slamming my hatchet around and trotting the camp's perimeter for almost 2 hours until the sun was fully up. I thought we were safe, enough to start packing at least. We called my dad at 7 a.m., and thankfully he was already awake. He couldn't sleep at night because he just felt wrong. We stood there watching the forest until he picked us up at the end of the road. The adrenaline didn't wear off until I was back in my car ready to go home.
And that is our resident swamp dweller hanging on out with us here once again, as we love it when Swamp Dweller comes on in, because that's what we do around here, is just get ready and go and get scared with the Swamp Dweller. I listen to the guy each and every night before I go to bed, and I really appreciate it, because he's so entertaining. He is so theatrical in what he does. You can check out Swamp Dweller and thousands of his stories for free by going to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and we will play it again tomorrow night, as he is here with us every Monday through Friday night in hour number 3 to kick things off. We're just waiting for Nicole Sackage, who's having a computer update going on right now. Bad timing indeed, but she is going to be with us momentarily for the UFO report as she makes her return after a couple of months back on Spaced Out Radio. And I know she's listening in. Nicole, maybe if you check your junk mail, maybe it went in there, but the link has been sent to you. It has been sent. So make sure you check it out. We're going to get into the Wilson memo, the Wilson documents. Nicole Sackage works very, very closely with Grant Cameron, And I got to say this before I bring Nicole on. Okay. I've had issues with the Wilson documents. Issues. And this goes back a couple of years. Okay. This goes back a couple of years where, I had Grant Cameron and Michael W. Hall on the show, and they told our audience point blank, we are going to break a huge, huge story on SOR. And in the midst of all the to do and everybody talking about it, the notes were found on Reddit. The story ended up going and breaking elsewhere. And Michael W. Hall is the one who really jumped at the opportunity to take it to every podcast before calling us. And I got a little upset with that. And to this day, I mean, Nicole will say, I hold a grudge on this. And you know what? She's right. She is right. However, what we are learning about these documents is they are very, very real, people. They are very real. And I believe it's time to put business aside and really focus on these documents, the Wilson documents. And we're going to get Nicole to break them on down and really, really push the limits on where they are, what they're doing. And this is why we're going to have Grant Cameron, famed Canadian researcher, on tomorrow night on the show. He was on Jimmy Church earlier today. But let's bring Nicole in and let's get this thing going.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
All right, Nicole Sackage filling in on the UFO report for a traveling Tim Senor tonight. Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's been a long day for you. And before we get into everything, it's been a few months since you've been on Spaced Out Radio. You've been really working on your own research and your own path towards, trying to figure out the phenomena. But man, it's so good to have you back on, my friend.
Honestly, I feel like I've been away from my vacation home for too long or something. Like, the good old beach. So yeah, how's everybody in the chat? I've been dipping into the chat room more than I've been on air, so I've missed everybody. Like Giggles, Dirty Filth always says hi. That's any chat room though. I'm blowing up everywhere these days. I can pop in on Goof On and be okay, and Fessler's chat room and be okay. Yours, Fade to Black, like.
Yes. And you know what? I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Church from Fade to Black, because I contacted him yesterday knowing that, all of this stuff that we're going to talk about here momentarily. And I called up Jimmy yesterday. I said, hey, Jimmy, you got Grant Cameron on tonight. I got him on tomorrow night. We're going to be hitting this Oak Shannon Wilson documents left, right, and center. And what do you say we do a little bit of cross promotion? And Jimmy, for all of his critics, has never, ever turned me down on anything. And his words out of his mouth were, abso-frickin-lutely, Dave. Seriously. Abso-frickin-lutely. That's my best Jimmy that I got.
That's good, pretty good, Jimmy.
And so Jimmy had an incredible show with Grant, and we highly recommend any of our radio listeners or our podcast listeners or YouTube listeners to go over to Jimmy Church's Fade to Black on YouTube and watch this episode. It was 2 power hours of Grant Cameron, the Wilson documents, Oak Shannon, and
Did you hear him fight? Did you hear Jimmy and Grant fight?
That part I missed, because I did have to go and get ready for the show.
It was dynamic. I mean, it was a good back and forth. It wasn't like fisticuffs or anything. It wasn't like you holding a grudge against Wilson documents.
For 2 years, Nicole, I have refused to talk about this subject. 2, 3 years.
I know.
And you and I have talked seriously. You and I have talked very much about these. And, the idea that tonight or earlier tonight, Jimmy had Grant on. We got Grant coming on tomorrow night for the show to break the severity of these documents down. And we're going to introduce most people to a gentleman right now who they've probably never heard of, but is extremely important in the UFO world, a gentleman named Oak Shannon. And we also want to say next week, we are going to have a follow-up with Melinda Leslie on this topic. And Melinda is in our chat room right now, and she has, I believe the gentleman's name is James Hawk or something along those lines. Mr. Hawk.
I say Hoke, but I'm from the Midwest. I pronounce everything wrong.
Yeah. So she's going to break down the secondary confirming notes on everything. So, Nicole, let's start with you because this is going to be a warm-up to tomorrow's show with Grant Cameron. And for people who don't know, Nicole and Grant Cameron work very closely together in their UFO research. For our audience, Nicole, in getting them warmed up for tomorrow night's show, who is Oak Shannon?
Very briefly, let me pull up a bio. I can't be brief. But briefly, he was a member of John Alexander's theoretical physics working group, also known as the Cosmic Club, has been reiterated possibly many times up until present day. But yeah, do you have his bio? With my tech problem, I didn't have it pulled up and ready, but I will find the full bio for you in just a minute.
I don't have his bio, but there are many people who believe that Oak Shannon is part of this elusive club that not many people have ever heard of called the Collins Elite, that he is a member of this. And there is rumor about it. There is no confirmation, but maybe break down what the Collins Elite is as well.
Well, see, the Collins Elite is one of those elusive groups, and their names are probably known. I will say they are kind of talked about as being ultra religious, maybe in the past, to where this might be one of those bottlenecks or funnels in our government to where they don't want this narrative out because it conflicts with a Christian narrative, maybe. So that's all very scary and life-changing things for some people, to grasp it. We talk about it all the time, how it just flips your whole perspective. So with the Collins Elite, there's always kind of excuses that go along with it. But I will say they are kind of, in my opinion, the most notoriously secretive. Out of all of them, you hear like whispers of so-and-so talks to who, so-and-so talks to who, so-and-so. Not ever out of the Collins Elite. It's like they invented the word secret. So, or at least secret club. I don't have a bio on the Collins Elite, and I did ask Grant about that because throughout the last few days, people have been excited that a Collins Elite actually gave an interview referring to Mr. Oak Shannon, which I don't think he would call himself one. I don't know if he knows other people might consider him one. Grant didn't seem to follow that line, but I also don't know if Grant just maybe didn't want to entertain that thought or go there. So Melinda and I tossed this around. I think it was 2 nights ago now. I've stayed up 2 nights in a row. So maybe Melinda can touch on this more next week because she'll give a full background on it and give you all their members, maybe, or known members, which I can share her slides. But I'll talk about Melinda, but I don't want to start sharing, like her charts. We share those behind the scenes more than, I want her to share them. So I want her to get the glory.
Well, what's interesting is Oak Shannon, I noticed today, actually followed us on Twitter. So I'm sure he may be listening, knowing that Grant is coming on this show tomorrow night as well. But the idea behind this all does come down to almost like a confirmation, Nicole, of
Right.
these Wilson documents. We got about 3 minutes before we have to go to break. Why should the public, especially those who are maybe intermittent within checking out the UFO world, why should they be paying attention to the Wilson documents?
Let me give Oak's bio first, and then we'll get into that importance
Sure.
after our break. Is that okay?
That works.
Oak Shannon is a Navy veteran and retired Los Alamos National Laboratory physicist. Shannon comes off in the core secrets as a liaison who introduced Wilson and Davis to each other. That's from Billy Cox's article. I know we've been passing it around behind the scenes a lot lately, but I will say Billy Cox wrote this wonderful article, and then he's even updated it, as he does. And you can find his article at his website. And Life in Jonestown is, I guess, are these called blogs when you just write? Is that a blog?
That's what blogging is.
There you go. And the title of his is Oak Who? The Admiral. So look that up. Billy Cox. I sent him an email earlier today, so I hope he's paying attention. I know he is. He's following right along with this.
Now, there are some big names that are involved with this. You've already mentioned Eric Davis, Admiral Wilson. You've mentioned Oak Shannon, that he worked with John Alexander, who's a former guest on this show, and really the only person ever on this show to scream at me and me actually get scared.
Hey, see, I don't know. I have wanted to talk with Mr. Alexander probably for decades. And I know, him, Melinda's known, all of this. And I've never approached him. And that might be the slight intimidation factor as well. And slightly I think he's just so fascinating. But then it's what other people say about him as well. Like when I interviewed Lee Spiegel, and he's like, I want John Alexander with me everywhere. He's the badass. And he's against aliens, against humans, against whoever. I don't care. I want John with me. It's like, who wouldn't want a friend like that, first of all? And then who wouldn't want a friend like that could tell you all these amazing life stories about all these interesting people that he's got to collaborate with and explore these strange topics with? And I think that's why I get excited when I think about this theoretical physics working group, because Grant says, they're all kind of secretive, but just the excitement of them getting together and trying to do this and seeing how far they can take it, that gets me.
Cole Sackich is here. We're going to continue on with Oak Shannon. Who is he? And the importance of the Wilson documents coming up next. Leading into tomorrow night's show with Grant Cameron. And we'll get into the ODNI and the UFO on Spaced Out Radio's UFO. You know what the fun part for me is, and I just did it for the first time, is going to watch the movie Men Who Stare at Goats with George.
I was talking about that earlier.
And trying to figure out which one is John Alexander, which one is Hal Puthoff, which one is,
Puthoff,
I mean,
I don't think is a main one. He's like in the background in like one scene where you're like, that could be Hal.
Oh,
And
I know. Oh, yeah. But I mean,
But,
wasn't
book.
it?
The book.
Yeah.
Read the book. Read the book. And
Yeah.
then learn about the author of the book. And then let's talk. Because, yeah, the movie is fun. Just like talking about Star Wars or Star Trek is fun. But no, read the book. Yeah.
Always try and figure it out. Always
What was
try and
your favorite part? Tell me that. Was it the goat?
No, I get it.
Was it Ewan McGregor's character, how he got sucked in? I could see you relating to a journalist. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of watch the movies and documentaries a little bit different now when it comes to these topics because when I see somebody I know on television, I get really giddy, and it's like, hey, I know that person. I've talked to that person. That person has my phone number. Like I get all uh
William, my son,
starstruck.
when William sees Grant, like, he'll see him on my laptop when we're talking and they talk and everything. But if William ever sees Grant on television at a show, he always ducks. He's like, can Grant see me? And it cracks me up. But yeah.
Oh man.
I get giddy all the time. We call it fangirl, honestly. I
Yeah.
still, after all these years, I get these fangirl moments with people and I'm like, ugh. I had one. I met an astronaut about a month ago online and chatted with him and I was like, oh my God.
No way. An astronaut.
Yeah. And then, I told that to my son and he's like, psh.
Hey, your kid may have solved plasma.
I don't know. He has questions. Let's put it that way.
Mm. Yeah, for any of you who don't understand the brain power of Nicole Sakic's son, he's I think he's 7 going on about 24. And post bachelor's going into his master's degree in physics. That's how smart the kid is. It's
I
unbelievable.
hope so. I do. Thank
Oh,
you, by the way.
you'll get that. And you tell Will that.
I don't want him to get one of those big giant raging egos too soon. So he'll watch these one day and be like, man, my mom's friends are awesome.
Yeah. My little guy comes in here tonight, and the minute he sees the blue up on my camera, I have
Mhm.
these little blue lights on my camera. He's like starts to shy away, right? Because he doesn't want to be on camera. And I'm like, come on, kid. Come on. My kid is weird though, because he literally I'll ask him, what did you do in school today? I don't know. Well, did you learn some math? Yeah. Well, did you learn any science? Oh yeah, well we were learning insects today or whatever. And then like he is so I don't even want to talk about it, Dad. And here's me. I'm like, no, we're gonna talk about this, you little son of a gun, right? And then report card day comes and it's like straight A's, you
Right?
know. And I'm
That
like, all I want to do is have a conversation, boy. Teach me.
I know. Last year it was I'm the smartest kid in class, Mom. I know I'm the teacher's favorite. Everybody else is still babies. He would say things like that.
That's what I
And
said.
I'm
Your
adorable.
kid is going on 24.
And
Eh,
well, this year he gets real excited if he's entertained by the homework, but they had to trace their hand a couple weeks ago and they were supposed to talk about the details of their hand, like their fingernails or
Yeah.
something. He brought his home and he was like, Mom, we have to add to this and I'm going to take it back to my teacher. I drew the bones and veins and tissue and
Oh,
tendons, and he wanted
yeah.
like a label off to the side. And he
Hold on.
color-coded
Here we
the
go.
thing.
Here we go. around in third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with Nicole Sackage filling in for Tim Senor this week on the UFO Report. And Nicole, we are getting into Oak Shannon and the Wilson documents. This has really blown up over the last couple of days here about this, and everything always seems to revolve around tomorrow night's guest, Grant Cameron, who is an idol and hero of both you and me. And literally, if you ever get a chance to meet Grant Cameron, he is one of the nicest people you could ever meet. And by God, if you have a UFO story for him, he wants to hear it. I mean, he's just an amazing, amazing man.
You know, I actually received one of the best Grant compliments I think I've ever heard from somebody randomly before. Want me to read it to you? It was actually amazing. We'll show some Grant love. Where'd it go? It's kind of buried. I got so flooded today, and I'm sorry if I ignored anybody that I haven't gotten to that's messaged me. It's been one of those days. It started last night with Melinda Leslie at 3 a.m. So I lost it. I can't find it. I maybe didn't save it. Oh, darn.
Give us the gist.
It was honestly, they had always heard about Grant, like as the third person, and they had never really tuned into him. And here, I found it. It said, and major props for the show. How does Grant even find the time to breathe? Everybody says that. I looked and found ne'er a spare millisecond, and he is dropping truth bombs nonstop to the tunes of Tupac, to the left and to the right. Which, I don't know, I love Tupac, so if Grant's compared to Tupac, then that's just amazing to me in some dimension. And then it says, the man is truly brilliant and devoted to the mission in such a righteous way that all the losers and posers and whiners and wannabes don't even see the core mentality or the missing characteristics and the dedication that separates the wheat from the chaff. Right? Is that not a great summation of Grant Cameron? And what it really means to be a researcher for 40 something years. You know, it shows the dedication. Two times he's been researcher of the year, I believe. He never brags about himself, so we can brag about him a little bit, I think.
Grant Cameron needs a lot more bragging.
Well,
he really.
I think he's the most humble person in this field, honestly. Except when he gets fired up and wants to poke some bears. Then he's all like, oh, let's, I don't know, short sheet somebody. You know, even Grant riled up isn't mean. I'm mean for him. I got to be the bad girl today. So.
Well, you're allowed every now and again. Oh, great. Let's get right back to the Wilson documents and maybe give a little, a 2-3 minute brief history on the importance of these documents and explain who Eric Davis is and Admiral Wilson.
I'm going to pull up my little notes here because I want to refer back to this excellent article of Billy Cox's. I think he summarizes it beautifully. Gotta find my spot now. Sorry, I'm operating off the phone.
That's okay.
Eric Davis is a physicist and longtime Pentagon consultant. He's maintained a no comment posture over the documents and their authenticity. So let's just point that out. According to the New York Times, Davis told a DoD agency in 2020 about the U.S. recovery and possession of off-world vehicles not made on this earth. So that is sort of a segue into why the Wilson Davis document notes. What do we officially call those things? But anyways, they're important because who the conversation took place between and what the conversation talked about. It was alluding to crash retrievals, and Wilson, he has denied the notes about 3 times now, but most recently he has said if amnesty happens, he will do his part with the closed hearings and tell the truth, essentially. Read between the lines on that. There is some reason why he won't come clean. Nobody really understands it, but people do bug him about it. So when the Wilson Davis notes broke, how Grant has talked about, they came from Edgar Mitchell's personal library. And so when he passed away, the notes kind of came out to the public via James Rigney, via Grant Cameron, dropping them on Reddit, things like that. So a few people like caught wind of this, and now it is sort of this pivotal document of the century. Is that what Richard Dolan called it? Like, we were going with that. This all fed into this disclosure push that we're, in the middle of now. It was sort of the first truly validating sourced document that talked about this. All the other ones are kind of very controversial, like the MJ-12 documents, like the Eisenhower documents, all of it. So that's why I think people were personally excited about it, other than who was actually in the conversation and where the notes came from. So was that a good summation? It's 2 o'clock in the morning here.
And it is something that we also have to look at too as a real summation of kind of the hidden secrets going on behind the government side of UFOs or UAP, whatever you want to call them. We're UFO people here in this area. And it really goes to show how deep the cover up goes between agencies, the United States Navy, the military, and the government, and the scientists who are working on this technology. Now, Nicole, this subject does have its critics. We've seen, people like Stephen Greenstreet or John Greenwald come out highly against these documents being anything but real.
America Nukes, from the beginning, when we first broke the documents and did our disclosure panels, and I honestly appreciate these opposing points of view. I really do. I think it gives that good debate and back and forth and gets to the bottom of it. Like, I don't think the Wilson document debate has been really brutal. I mean, maybe a few people on Twitter have really gone fisticuffs over it. But I mean, to me, like the 40 plusers like Grant and even, everybody got on board with these, and look where they're at today. That was part of what Grant mentioned with Oak and these emails behind the scenes over the last couple of days. It's like, can you believe, or would you have thought when you were a child, your name would be on a document that's just been read into Congress? Like, that's amazing.
No, I think it's pretty amazing as well. I mean, the idea, though, that this goes like most people, when they look at this subject, Nicole, they are looking at it from a, John Doe or Jane Doe seeing some lights in the skies. And I'm sure there's something at Area 51. They're looking at it at a very minimalist level. They don't really understand, even people in our audience, I don't think fully understand or comprehend how far this subject goes when it comes to technology, crash retrievals, to potential alien contact and alien bodies already being examined here on Earth. I mean, this is the reality of the Star Trek we are dealing with.
And that we can kick it back to Wilson's part in this as well. Not only, Eric Davis looking into this being impressive, but that's where Admiral Wilson, he did try to pursue these things within government. And he was hitting these walls of, you don't need to know. Why do you want to know? Just because you want to know doesn't mean you need to know. And then he was pretty much, I think, told to flat out drop it. Flat out drop it, or you're going to ruin what you have. So I think that's very giving of this back and forth that we see with every disclosure push. Like it's talked about, there are those within that are in the know that want it out. There are those within that are in the know that don't want it out. Are those knowns even known to each other? And it's hard to tell. And this is where the critics come in. And this is where I appreciate people like Erica Lukes for saying what they say, and Green Street for saying what they say, and John Greenwald for saying what he says. When you do analyze all these characters or these people, whether they're from the Aviary or Valais Invisible College or the Advanced Theoretical Working Group, all the way up to now when we talk about TTSA or the Lou Crew, you look at each individual person and know they're connected to these groups. And then you have to just sort of sort through it. Like, are they good in this moment? Are they bad? What are their intentions? And it's all speculation. It honestly is. I just praise John Alexander. I know there's people out there in the community that really are scared to death of him and think that he's a scary man, though. And I get anybody that's highly military trained can be scary, but no, these are experiencers that swear that he's part of their experiences, and that's frightening to people. But then there's, people like Jacques Vallée that are celebrated, and he's, the great grandfather of our community, or sing all the praises forever to him. But then you even find out little nuances of the Capella or his Capella research going straight to ATIP before ATIP was known. Was he telling people that? Was the community all yay, Jacques Vallée's doing something we don't know about? To me, that's secretive. But is it secretive bad or secretive good? Does the UFO community have the right to know everything Jacques Vallée does just because they want to know it? No. It's the need to know again.
Explain the Capella group.
The way I understand it, it is the database that Jacques Vallée has amassed and collected over the decades of his research. And I think it's public. I think anybody can search it. Maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't dug that far into it. But his 260,000, is that what it was? 260,000 observational cases were given to ATIP before it was outed.
I want to ask you about that. Because, and I don't care if we have to skip the news tonight. This is much more important because it is news on what's going on. Jacques Vallée comes out and says he's investigated 260,000 cases that he turned over to ATIP, which Lou Elizondo was allegedly still a part of. And we do believe that he did run the program. At least I do. Okay. Yet we're hearing in the DNI report of 2021 that there was 144 cases and 143 were unknown. One was a weather balloon, coincidentally. I mean, This just goes to show the trickery, and I want to use a different word there than trickery. It sounds like trickery, but more of a swear word, of what we are seeing within the UFO community and within the scientific community of everybody preaching. They want disclosure. They want the public to know what's going on. But nobody had ever heard about Jacques Vallée's 260,000 cases before.
I think maybe they had, but it's just maybe been buried or, talked about in subgroups or something. I mean, this was on a bio I sent it to you. What was it from? A conference in France.
Conference in France, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty standard stuff. I mean, it's on a public bio. I had just never seen it read that way in the States,
Me either. It's weird. We're going to move on because tomorrow night we have Grant Cameron here on this show talking about the Wilson documents, the involvement of a gentleman named Oak Shannon, who we've introduced you to. Thank you to Nicole Sackich for that. But I want to ask you something that came out this weekend that really caught the ufology off guard a little bit, and that revolves around a certain logo from the office of the Director of National Intelligence. And for people in radio who can't see this, it shows an airliner, a jet fighter, a stealth fighter, a drone, all flying across from South America into North America on an angle. But way down in the corner, they've added a unidentified flying object, the classic UFO disc. Nicole, what was your first thoughts when you saw this?
Oh, I can tell you that almost immediately because I texted my first thoughts. I sent them. And honestly, I was about 20 hours behind this news breaking by the time I was commenting on it. And so it did kind of crack me up a little bit, but I'll have to edit out my own cussing. I said I was going to smart aleck something about a classic daylight disc or a cigar, or that a Tic Tac might have been better option than a domed sports model. But then that blue triangle up top keeps my smart aleck comments to myself. And I will say, yeah, when you zoom in on the blue triangle, it's got those two little things on the bottom. So that's interesting. And what you called a drone, I call a satellite. That's a satellite. That's a spy satellite spying over the Midwest, according to where it's located. And that UAP is in the Pacific Ocean. Not where Catalina Island is, but your eye is kind of directly kind of in that area where you're like, what? No, they're not meaning that specifically. But honestly, this has been removed. I don't know if it was released as a fake. Ross Coulter was talking about it on Twitter just a few hours ago about how this has been rescinded. And I don't know if it's been whispered that maybe this was a joke that got put out officially. But yeah, it's been taken back. That's not the right one. Kind of like how we heard at Roswell, like, nope, we didn't recover a crash.
Either way, I find it very funny that we see these jokes being played all over the place. I remember talking to my new source who used to work at Area 51, who would state to us, Nicole, that at Area 51, one of the funniest jokes for them is watching these movies come out that have spy planes in it because they know they've already been tested at Area 51 and whether they work or not. Or if you take the new Top Gun movie where Tom Cruise is flying the spy plane, that's allegedly the retired Aurora from the Aurora program. And we've now bumped up to the SR-75, which Michael talks about.
Is that blue thing in Aurora?
That would be an Aurora type craft right there.
Yeah, and that's what, I mean, from a distance, it looks like classic triangle. Up close, you see the little thing, so you're like, yeah, it's Aurora. But I thought that was like our nice TR-3B leading a fleet of fighter jets, airliners, satellites, I'm having some fun with this, honestly, because you told me we were going to discuss this little snidbit, and I think I did kind of segue this into, have you seen all the crazy stuff kind of coming out with Space Force? And with their logos, there's that Delta that's really crisp that kind of looks like a black triangle craft. And then what was another one that I saw recently? I found a whole bunch of articles, and apparently this is a thing. It's like units can make their own patches to celebrate things.
Yes.
And so there are quite a few articles out here in the world, even going back like to 2002 or 12. I had them saved here. Now I have to find them.
Nicole, we do have to wrap it up, but people should pay more attention to military and spy patches. They always tell a story. Nicole Sackage, thank you so much for coming on in. We've got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Spreaker, LGAP, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. We done.
I brought my friends tonight. Did you see them over here?
Oh, right there.
Got my droid friend. Got my little green guy friend. I mean, we're not talking about little green men here, but.
Well, get this. Took my son to hockey practice on Sunday. Here's something funny for you American people. Okay. Take my son to hockey practice. And our association, our minor hockey association, is very small. We have troubles getting coaches. So Davey here used to be a pretty damn good hockey coach.
Oh, Coach Dave. Dave, eh?
Well, I'm getting sucked in to coaching, and I love working with kids. But the funny part about it is, under my current certification from 20 years ago, I have the ability to coach junior hockey up to professional hockey without a problem, because I went pretty far. Mm-hmm. But I do not have the qualifications to coach kids in minor hockey.
You have to have the patience of a saint.
So
400.
now I have to take 10 hours of upgrading of literal political correctness bullshit.
Oh,
Okay. On fair play and a positive attitude. And I'm a fucking dinosaur when it comes to this stuff, man. Okay. Like you can't even, back in my day, kid has a good shift. You tap him on the ass and you say, hey, that's a good shift. Not anymore. Can't do
nope,
that.
nope,
Can't do that.
nope.
So,
I often take it the other way and I say, how did this junk start to begin with? Why is that a sportsman thing to slap each other on the rear? I mean,
it's not bad as long as you say good game.
like, well, I'm not even saying it's bad, but I mean, does that go back to like Greek wrestling times, like when that was like your way of life, like.
I have no idea. Way above my pay scale.
Well, see, I mean, those are the types of things I wonder about. Or I will say, what gets me that I think is ridiculous is the participation trophy thing. Like, what's wrong with winning or losing? I mean, I think there's value in both of those things and sportsmanship. But
I have no problem. I have no problem with sportsmanship and everything like that. I think that's very important. In order to learn how to win, you have to learn how to lose.
And here, I will point this out right now. My son has zero desire in any type of sports right now, other than just messing around. Like he doesn't want to join anything. So I'm kind of skirting all this right now. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to deal with the participation trophy yet, not unless he wants one.
Yeah. It got to the point today where I had to get my son's skate sharpened today for his next practice. And I go in there and I go looking at the hockey sticks, and I'm just looking at all these hockey sticks, and all I could think of is that would hurt to take that in the face. That one would hurt. That one would feel okay. This one, no,
I don't know. I was a cheerleader. That was my sport. It was cheerleader, and we were bad asses. Every single one of us. We could get hit harder than football players. We could kick harder than soccer players. We could get slapped in the face harder than people with hockey sticks, like all the above. And then you had to smile through it. We just dropped you on your head. Now smile and act like you're okay. I'm teasing a little bit, but it is also that thing. Like it was different in the 90s and the 80s for, I think, all girls in sports. So this kind of like levelized athleticism and fair play and introduction of things, but I'm still not going to watch the WNBA.
I'm gonna date myself with a back in my day. Back in my day, we used these hockey sticks that were made. It was a shaft that was made out of aluminum. Okay, and then you put in
stickball. We used to play that in the States. Stickball. Like you get a stick and a rock that you pretend is a ball. Like
this one here. One day I'm off a face-off. I rush the point because the puck goes back, and this guy quickly dumps the puck in the corner, looks up, and goes like this right into my face with his aluminum stick, and it caught me like right on my throat and right up my chin. Ooh. I'm not gonna lie, that one hurt.
Who wants to play like that? That doesn't sound fun.
Oh, hey, it's part of the game, right? I mean,
The other sport I did was track, and I'll run after somebody. That's fun. Never
All
came
right.
in last. That was fun.
Yeah. So today I had to get my criminal record checked in order to do
Ooh.
that, which I fully agree with. I'm 100% in support of that.
Yeah.
But like I was explaining to some people, because the one thing that I learned in coaching hockey years ago, and it hasn't changed, it's probably got worse, is sport parents are idiots. The majority of sport parents are really nice people, but there's that small 20% that are just a bunch of absolute morons. And
The soccer moms are go-getters, so you're definitely not talking about them. I mean, they are like changing the world. Those types of parents. I mean, seriously, they've got
they're just
everything
population
organized and taken
growth.
care of, and they know the routine. They can scream louder than anybody on any field, too.
James Weston, it was cross-checking penalty, the cross-checking.
Ooh.
Yeah. But
Is that when your El Volador side came out? The El Avni? Is that when he started appearing?
no.
No? Just
Um
checking.
no.
Taking a hit like that can bring out your altar.
My buddy Kirk, who I used to play with, just one of the toughest son of a bitches I've ever played hockey with. He loves to tell this story, and to this day, I mean, God, we're going back to, I think, 1994, 95. We're playing in this league, and I got to break it down so you understand.
Please break it down.
Okay. Guy is coming into my end. I'm playing defense. He gets around me. I kind of stutter stepped and lost my balance. So I pick up my stride. I dive down to knock the puck off his stick, and I shatter my stick on his shin bone. Okay. And it doesn't hurt. You got padding.
Oh, no. It hurts thinking about it.
So I get a penalty for slashing. I go to the penalty box for my 2 minutes of shame. Doesn't even last 30 seconds because the other team scores on the power play. I come back on the ice and we have another face-off for the goal. So puck comes into our zone. It's offside. And one of their big goons, a guy named Clint Smith, okay, comes up to me and cross-checks me in the teeth. Right? Thank God I had a mouthpiece in, right? And so he goes to a penalty box for high sticking. So now I'm pissed off, right? Because you don't mess with a person's teeth.
No.
And so he goes into the penalty box, and there's no glass on the penalty box. Like, you could jump over the boards at any time. And so I start, because I'm a little bit of a big mouth, if you haven't noticed. I start, I go down the ice, and I'm chirping at him across the ice of the penalty box. And next thing I know, I hear the whistle blow. I'm not even made it past the red line yet because I'm yapping at the guy at the penalty box. I'm pissed off at him. And we go into, I hear the whistle blow. I turn, I look, and in the corner, this line brawl is breaking out. So, okay, old Davies game for a little line brawling. I mean, nobody ever gets hurt. I mean, if you can enjoy a little bit of line brawling, I mean, what are you doing in life? You got to be able to line brawl every now and again.
I'm picturing girls in my high school that like take off their rings and their earrings. And they're like, oh, let's do this. Like, is that like a line brawl? Is that how you're getting ready for?
Oh, you got they had 4 players on the ice. We had 5. Okay. Their goalie got involved. So because I'm late to the fun, the only guy I can find is their leading scorer who's being held back by the referee. So I grab a hold of him and I look at him and I gave him a couple of glove jabs to the face. I said, come on, let's go. Let's go. And he's like, no, man. He goes, I don't fight. I'm a goal scorer. I'm like, yeah, I literally said, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. So, so the line brawls all in the corner. The referee and the linesman are trying to break up like 3 different fights. So here skates old Davy down to the penalty box. And I stand about 4 feet from the penalty box. And I said, you're an asshole.
Oh.
I said, you don't try and take out my teeth that way. I said, that's not cool. And he takes his stick out of the penalty box and pretend my microphone's a stick. He puts it about this far from my face. And he goes, F you. If you don't get out of here, I'll take your head off. So
brutal.
So I said to him, I swung my stick at him, knocking his stick out of his hands and onto the ice.
Ooh.
I said, come on out. Let's do this right now. He goes, why don't you come in? I said, okay. I threw my gloves in his face and I jumped up into the penalty box. And I'll be honest with you, I have never hit somebody so hard in my life. Like I would just pounded this guy. Next thing I know, there is people all around us. Well, him and I like he's 6'2", I'm 5'9", and there's another 3 inches to get off the ice, 4 inches to get off the ice. So he's like 6'6", and I'm short, and I'm having to jump up and hit him, right? And honestly, it was freaking awesome. It really was. And yeah, my buddy Kirk still brags about that.
See, my one fight like that was a really tall person. And honestly, she had bullied me all through like gym class for about half a year. And she always would do the whispered, like, make fun of you. But she always made fun of me because I always smiled. She's so smiley. And then like it led to like, oh, I'm gonna beat her up or I'm gonna jump her in the locker room, like all this stuff. And I literally lived in terror. I felt for like a semester. I was a freshman and this was a senior or a junior something. But I had finally like reached my max. I was like, I've either got to stick up for myself or get beat up. This has got to stop or whatever. And so it's like the classic locker room thing. It's like, it's going to happen here, like where everybody's isolated and alone. Like, and I could tell she was like behind me, was like walking up to me. And I was like half in my locker, like changing. And then I was like, I got to jump on this bench because she's so tall. She'll just be able to kill me. Like, so I just jumped up and like jumped on top of the bench. And I was like, if you're going to punch me, just punch me and get it over with. Because I had to stand on this bench to yell at you to your face. And she just like walked away and has never said anything to me ever again, ever. And I saw her at the grocery store like 3 years ago and she hid from me, which I thought was funny because yeah, she literally like saw me, which is the first time I've seen her in 20 something years. And yeah, she ran from me in the grocery store. She's still really tall too, taller than me.
My final hockey fight that I ever had, I lost. And this one's actually funny because if you've ever played hockey, you know what it's like to have cement feet. Cement feet are where no matter what, you can't get going. And I was trying to impress a girl. I had her in the stand. And I just come off suspension. Go figure. And I had literally grabbed the puck, and my feet just felt like they were 100 pounds apiece. Like I just had no direction. I couldn't make a pass. Couldn't do anything. And by the second period, I was getting so frustrated in my game. And I finally said to myself, I got to get out of this game. I suck tonight. And the only really clean way out is like, because you can't just say to your teammates, I'm out. I'm going to the dressing room. You can't quit on them.
No.
So, well, Dave picks their tough guy. No, he was a tough guy. Thought one of the other guys was the tough guy, not this guy. And I'm left-handed. He's right-handed. And we both grabbed the collar of a jersey. So I grab him with the right. He's grabbing me with his left, which leaves this entire open line. Okay. This side's for grabbing. This side's for punching. And him and I went face to face, just straight face punching for about a minute. Now, a minute doesn't sound long,
It's
but
long.
it's
That's
long. It's very long. And every time, normally what happens in a hockey fight is you take the first one and then your face kind of goes numb and then it kind of feels good. Right?
No.
But God is my witness. Every time this guy hit me, I saw stars. I took the first one, and I remember thinking, well, after I took the first one right here, I remember thinking, that hurt. Okay, got the hard one out of the way. Here comes the second one. That one hurt too. Then came the third one, and that one hurt. And I was like, uh-oh. And that's where I just started throwing as fast as I could. And then, so when you're hockey fighting, you got the jersey and you're pulling and punching at the same time for momentum, pulling him in. Well, his jersey ripped on me right down the front, and I slipped because now that tension isn't there. I slipped, and he went 1, 2, 3 in my nose. And after the first one in my nose, my eyes went all watery because I knew my nose was broken. Number 2 was like, yeah, my nose is now shattered. Number 3 was like, I just lost this fight and I went down.
Oh, my nose
I
hurt.
get up, blood all over me and blood on the ice. And my team's cheering me on. I'm cheering, everything. And I skate off the ice.
So
You know,
gladiator like.
I go into the dressing room. I'm in the mirror like this, and I'm like, okay, just
Oh no.
trying to straighten my nose out at that time, which was kind of fun. And I go get dressed. I get showered in the dressing room, and I go out back to the rink. No, I was still half dressed. I go back to the rink to see how my team is doing, and the dude I just fought is standing out there as well. So I walk up to him. His name's Jim, right? And he goes to me. He goes, dude, you don't even know who the fuck I am, do you? I'm like, no. He goes, buddy, my sister and I used to babysit you. Your sister and my sister were best friends in high school. I'm like, no way, man. I'm like, yeah. He's like, so we just shook hands and let's have a beer, right? It was good. It was good.
Oh, that's crazy.
So, yes, I did take the girl back to her apartment, except she didn't want to make out with me because my nose was so sore. And
Yeah, you didn't look pretty after that, like
yeah, and
swollen
then
and ugh.
she's like, well, you know what? We can see each other again next weekend in a date that never happened because I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning for work. And I'm like, really? I just, got in a really good hockey fight, and I'm not even gonna get some sympathy love here, right? No, didn't get sympathy love.
Nope.
No.
Sorry, need my beauty sleep, work at 6 a.m.
Yep. We never dated again.
Hey, some
No.
girls got it going on like that. See you later. Bye. Maybe she didn't like you because you lost. Maybe
Mm.
she wants to date a guy whose nose doesn't break.
Went straight with me, Sackage.
There's always a reason.
Oh, it was fun though. It was a good old times.
Abe, yes, I'm a chef in my heart and soul, and we speak like lions. That's how we communicate. We roar. Yep.
So
Yep.
our feed on YouTube may get a little sticky here because I am downloading the audio for our radio station, so sometimes it gets a little sticky. But yes, Nicole, I got to quickly step away for a minute here because I have to go to the bathroom. I'll let you quickly just kind of
Oh,
do
I
what you
better
do.
turn on the chat room. Hold on.
Yeah, all you guys can talk. Oh, Nicole stepped away for a minute. I will be right here. Yeah, you guys should, if you get a chance before tomorrow night's show with Grant Cameron, you should check out his interview on Nicole's channel for... Hello, Nicole.
Hi, sorry. Oh,
You okay?
you exited me. No, honestly, Dave, I don't wear makeup every day. And I have mascara on, and mascara always drives my eyes crazy. Like, what the heck? I hate makeup.
Oh, I took you out instead of taking me out?
What?
Did I take you out instead of
Yeah,
taking me out?
I think so. I went to turn on my chat, and then I looked up, and I was gone.
Oh, weird. I'm sorry, everybody.
I
I'm
might
totally...
have done it too. I didn't think I hit anything, but I might have.
That's my fault then. I'm sorry.
I dipped into the chat and just did old school text communication, instead of that verbal. Let's see. I lost my chat though. I was talking to Abe. Abe was
Good
in
old
Vegas.
Abe.
Yep. Is that Mennonite Abe?
Yeah, that's Mennonite Abe.
See, I don't do all the funny nicknames. Who was I talking to earlier? Daniel. He ran around with me and Filthy. Where was Filthy tonight? I thought he was going to be.
He had to work late.
Oh, that's good. Actual working. That's a good reason.
Yeah, he's actually doing real work here.
You look through his book. Oh my god, I love this thing. Does everybody have one of these yet? I mean, I know you scroll them through all the time, but he signed mine. And yes, he calls me Nick. Like all people that love me end up calling me Nick. You got your hockey face on. What's that all about? You reliving your broken nose? What's up?
Sometimes I just can't breathe out of it.
Don't you have to go and get like that septum thingy?
I did, and it didn't work.
Yeah. No. Do you got to sleep with one of those Darth Vader tube hose things? No?
No.
Not yet? Does Mrs. SOR want you to sleep in one so you don't snore?
No.
Yeah, you guys aren't that old yet.
No, not yet. Maybe in a year or two.
Oh, you know what I want? I want a Bigfoot gifting site update, and I need a R. Keith Andrews update.
I haven't talked to Art Keith in the last little bit, but the gifting site this past weekend, like I said to Lon Strickler, the first half hour, it was weird. It wasn't fun this weekend. Wasn't fun whatsoever. It was there was something out there, Nicole, that just
The heebie-jeebies?
yeah. We were there. Like, I did put it this way, in the 40 minutes that we were there, I did not stop my vehicle. I had my doors open and I kept my kid in the truck. And I wouldn't let him out.
Since we're reminiscing about high school days a little bit, like, do you remember when that movie, The Blair Witch Project, came out?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, now I look back and I'm like, who fell for this garbage? I mean, it was actually masterfully like hyped. You know what I mean? It's like real found footage or, but it was so stunning and our thing after movies is we all would drive out into the country, and have a bonfire party somewhere. And me and my friend, I kid you not, it's like we got out to the usual hangout spot, and we were first or something, and it was just nothing but cornfields and dark. And it was like, as soon as she stopped the car, I was like, this ain't happening. Just get back to town. Like, we have no business being out here in Blair Witch country. Like, what is going on? But it was surreal. Like, I mean, now I run around the country by myself all the time. Like, most weekends I'm out, chasing a UFO, at least at some wee hours of the dawn. And I never get spooked like that. Maybe a little bit if Buster gets spooked, because I take the dog with me. But like, if he goes on point, then I'll go on point. But it's rare. It was about a year ago too. I did get spooked, but it only spooked me like 15 feet away from where I was. I was like, whoa, I gotta just back this one up. So I get it. Was it the vibe? Was it like a mental thing, or just like,
like I said to Lon, it was one of those things, dude, where literally the minute we started driving up turned onto the logging road and started driving up there, I kept getting pareidolia on the sides of the roads in the trees of alien gray heads.
oh,
And Mark kept on just feeling really heavy, like not feeling good. And Mrs. SOR, she was just on edge, just absolutely on edge. Like danger is awaiting us. And
do you think that's a primal instinct kicking in that you don't recognize, like that danger type? I wonder that sometimes, you don't know.
I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
It really could be anything. I don't get it. It was just wrong.
Every time you talk about driving on that logging road, I envision Travis Walton scenario, like those guys driving in that truck, weaving the big giant trees, all of it. So is it that isolated type of an area, or is there?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we're 15 miles into the forest.
Yeah. I know Don Schmidt told me a story once of going to that Travis Walton location and how isolated it truly was from everything. And that whole story is they dropped him off where he would be safe, not back where he was taken from. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of surrounded by that sort of isolation too. So, I mean, I understand it. Like, it's strange, but people do think they can like walk places in the country and they'll go missing. They can fall and get hurt and get stuck, and vehicles get stuck, and just all sorts of things. So I do understand that, but I don't know. It also kind of is just exciting enough to add that drive to keep doing it though too.
Yeah, I don't know if we're definitely going back there next week on Saturday. We're definitely going back. We got to figure out what is going on there, because this is like 4 weeks in a row where just weird stuff has happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
I love weird stuff in the woods. Those are some of my earliest childhood experiences that like children that grow up with the phenomenon. It's like they don't realize it's strange for a long time, and that's a lot of my youth spent in the woods behind my house. It was like I was always running off down in those woods. and I would get in trouble for going off alone. And I had a place in the woods I called my Moon Rock that I would take my sister to, and it's just like this huge boulder, but for some reason I was fascinated with it. I remember waking up in this forest and looking above me and having these feelings like I was out of breath, like the wind was knocked out of me. And I would look above me, and I remember a floating tractor tire floating in the woods above me.
Weird.
Yeah. I also remember this tractor would come back. This tractor tire would come back. And one time it was down on the ground, and I could walk around it, and I jumped through the middle. And then I don't remember what happened after I jumped through the middle. But I woke up, and then I was laying there again. I've only told this story to one person, actually. It hasn't ever been Grant. I told this story to Alan Steinfeld and Laughlin. We had a lunch together and chatted and swapped stories, and yeah.
Weird.
It is weird. You know, that's very weird. Alan was like, that tractor tire was a UFO. And I was like, but I saw a tractor tire. You know, it's that sort of thing. And I was like, but you know how Alan is. He gets real excited and talks like that. I love him to death. I really do. So, Alan, I haven't talked to you in a while. Shout out. I do absolutely adore him. Like, he's not talked about enough in our community, I think, for different reasons. I mean, I think everybody knows his face and they've seen his shows, and they know he kind of knows everybody. But then he's compiled this awesome book, Making Contact, and he's made movies before. Like, he has this documentary out about like New York in the 70s. And it's like such a trip to watch, because you're just like, wow, oh my God. Like, it's like the ultimate people watching. It's like having one of those YouTube reels or Facebook reels before a reel. So yeah. Have you ever interviewed him for Spaced Out Radio? You should. That would be great. You should. I think the audience would love it. Yeah, they would love Alan. He's the right kind of woo. Definitely. I'll tell you a secret too.
Well, maybe we'll have to get him. We're going to say goodnight to everybody here, because I do have to work in the morning. Big thank you to Steve, Kira, Cat Chaser, Eddie, and Smithy for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate it. And, of course, Nicole coming on in. Thank you so much. It's good to have you back. And on that note, we're going to say goodnight. Let's bring on the dirty filth.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.